And so are we live?
Let me see.
Yeah. So we have 0 viewers, but I know people have registered to, connect with us. So this is our first guest is coming in at 12:15. And that is going to be Mary Sue Dahill, founder of the Work Smarter Digital. And so until then, you and I are just going to be discussing. We have 1 viewer. There we go. So we'll be able to see chat. Hello, welcome. And I think we'll be able to see some comments show up. So if you put yourself in the comments, we can see who you are and we can support you. My name is Meshell Baker. I am one of the founders. This is co-founded with my sister Daphne, as I am her live-in aid and caregiver. And there we go, Muscle Beach. So happy to be here. Oh, yay. Wow. And then I have my executive director, Lisa Hurst, here. So we have our first guest coming at 12:15. Mm-hmm. So we have roughly 13 minutes. And as soon as she logs in, we'll get her here. But we are glad to be here. And we really wanted to talk and engage you in the opportunity to have support as if you are an entrepreneur, business owner, freelancer, solopreneur, and you have stepped into a role of caregiving. And we're here to have you join us and connect with us and find out more about how that we can have conversations that elevate us. Because I know it's been an isolating, daunting, difficult, challenging. Like I could go on and on about the experience. Like there's so many nights where I laid there and I was like, why am I doing this? This is not fair. Like I can remember thinking how unfair it felt. Yet at the same time, I'm dealing with someone who's disabled. So then I felt guilty that I felt like it was unfair. So that's why Lisa is coming on board as someone who's going through something very similar. So I'll let Lisa take the mic and tell you a little bit about her journey. But between guests, we will take some breaks here and there. And we will, constantly update you on guests. If you know anyone, we'll post in the chat where you can, we have a survey for our Facebook group is where we're starting. And that way, with that, we'll get to know what your needs are, how we can support you, and then we'll grow and expand from there. So Lisa, take the mic and say hello and tell the folks about yourself.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity and just this opportunity to connect and really be in a space of supportive and encouraging people in the midst of what for me can be challenging at times from minute to minute, hour to hour. And I'm located in San Antonio, Texas. And so over the years, I have had different opportunities for, caregiving for family members that had dementia or, long-term, short-term issues. And currently my brother's recovering from a stroke and out of state. And so it's been really different sets of challenges along the way. Every week is different. Every month is different. And there's progress in the midst of trying to run a business. And so the challenges of negotiating schedules and phone calls and all of it is just, it can be really daunting. So I'm looking forward to having this community as a resource for encouragement, for me primarily, but supportive in ways to problem solve. I know that I'm not the only one dealing with certain things. And so, I'm a solopreneur and I love to use improv to help people communicate their needs and their visions and their goals in ways that will impact our community. And so dealing with the medical community, that's been really an interesting challenge along the way and endeavor. I guess I would say more of like an endeavor and to be more positive about it. And, so it's just, there's just a lot of comfort knowing that I'm not alone. And I've known Meshell over the years on and off and just, to watch her navigate her business and her caregiving with her sister is just amazing to watch that. And so we're just going to work together and create something that will be life-giving and solution-minded for many, not just in Texas, but beyond. And
Yes.
in Muscle Beach, is that St. Augustine, Florida?
Yes, it is.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite places to go. Oh, I love St. Augustine. Like, I would go there once a year almost, to vacation and find petrified shark's teeth up on Navarre Beach. So
yeah. Oh, they typed in, and let me put in here the Facebook group, so that as people are coming in, I'll put in some of the links. Let me just grab all the links, and if they want to learn about us. And we do have a website. The website developer was calling me this morning so we can get it linked up and give it to y'all. It just didn't work out. And this is, part of being I call it an entrepreneurial caregiver, because I want to distinguish that it's not someone who runs a caregiving agency. It's actually someone who is a founder, a business owner, a solopreneur, a freelancer, someone who has a entrepreneurial or business endeavor, and they decided to step into the caregiving role. So this is a very different conversation. And I know, as someone who is listening, if you're in that role, you have been to especially networking events or masterminds or communities, and some of the chatter you hear has almost nothing to do with you, right? You're just like, it's not anything that's helpful, or it can be helpful. And what's happening is we really want to create a space where it's a combination. So that's why how the logo was developed. It's a person who has two loves that feel like they're splitting them apart: a love of their business, endeavors, and a love of the person they're caregiving for. And it's just, both of them create massive amounts of uncertainty. They can create being uncomfortable. Unplanned and the unexpected are constantly happening, and you're faced with it. So how do you combine that and grow that love so that you're able to, in the midst of all of that, still do things and create a life that you're enjoying? It's not one out of obligation. So that's what these conversations are going to be about today. And we'll have other people coming in to share their experiences and just glean from it. We are here to create a conversation that helps you to distinguish and elevate yourself amongst your circumstances. We will have tools and courses eventually. And today it's about being empowered, encouraged, inspired that you're not alone. You're not alone. There are people who are traversing and moving through these experiences just like you. And we want you to see that and then invite you to join us. So we're about 12:09. So the guest should be logging in pretty soon here in the next minute or two, and then we'll get her up. Mary Sue Dahill. You can keep engaging their audience of the numbers look like a couple. If you have any questions or anything you'd like us to highlight or spotlight, please feel free to pop it in the chat. And then I'm going to kind of go into the back and see if I can text. And that's why there's two of us. Like, one of the things you know is that, one of the things is that many hands make light work.
Indeed.
And so let me text our guest and see where she is, so we can get her up and running. Because otherwise, you'll just be looking at our two gorgeous faces all day. And I mean, I could gaze upon myself for hours, but I'm certain not everybody feels that way.
Well, and those that are watching us right now, just chime in the chat where you're located, and if you feel free to, if you'd like to, and just something you're looking forward to doing this weekend, whether it's with a loved one or something fun you're going to do, because it's always a good thing to set that intention for at some point during the weekend or today, something fun. So San Antonio, we have the rodeo, so we're going to go to the rodeo this
Oh,
weekend.
nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I'm a little. We actually have a Mardi Gras parade on Sunday that someone invited me to go with them to. So you're reminding me to call to text her and let her know. Yeah, I want to go to the Mardi Gras parade. So I just sent a message. Good morning, Cynthia. Oh, Cynthia joined us. So Cynthia is the wonderful mother of my sister Daphne. My sister Daphne's boyfriend.
oh wow.
Oh, there she is. Mary just joined us. Let's add her to the stream.
Oh, great. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I am well. I feel bad, but my husband and I did not coordinate, so the dogs are barking today.
Well, but you're in the right community because this is exactly the conversation we're having. That as a entrepreneurial caregiver, we live in the illustrious world of anything can happen.
Roll with it.
It often does. There's been many times I've been giving presentations where I had the forethought to tell someone or tell the group, I need to stop and answer the door to let my sister's aid in, right? Or I might need to stop and grab her Meals for Will, right? It's just, and that's what's happening. People are so isolated in these experiences, they think they're wrong or think there's something bad that they're not able to be perfect. And we have learned that perfection is just, it's history. So
right.
I want to go ahead and read your lovely little bio and announce that perfection. Oh, you were. I was like, wait a minute. I created an echo of myself. Oh, that's just lovely.
No, I'm trying to MacGyver my way around to see if I can watch it, have it on live on Facebook too. So my apologies.
Oh, so Astrid said, morning, ladies. She's dancing and hairstylist and doggy love weekend plans. Oh, she got a lot going on, getting her hair did and going and having fun with the doggies. Girl. Oops, what happened? Are you there? I think I hit something when I tapped.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read your lovely little bio with the little picture. She has a fabulous bio. Okay, Mary Sue Dahill is an expert in marketing systems and a hot mess tamer. Okay, I'm gonna tell you, she has tamed my hot mess. This is truer words could not have been said. I should say my hot mess CRM situation because I still got other hot mess going on. But enough about me. Who helps entrepreneurs streamline and automate their business. With her all-in-one CRM methods, Mary Sue's clients go from scrambling for clients to having a consistent pipeline. Amen. Hallelujah. She specializes in working with overwhelmed business coaches and consultants who are looking to streamline and automate their marketing systems. By doing so, they can avoid the stress of their next launch, increase their chances of closing new clients. Mary Sue's expertise helps ambitious entrepreneurs tame their marketing systems and get more clients. Okay. I'm a fan. She knows I'm a fan. and she has done exactly that with Meshell. All of that, truer words have not been spoken yet today. So, Mary Sue, thank you for being here. So we want to just start off and ask, was there anything that wasn't included in the bio that you'd like to spotlight about yourself?
Well, I guess I have 2 mini dachshunds, which I'm totally obsessed with, and that's who you may hear in the background. And I have 2 college-age kids, so we have a busy life. And then, since this is a caregiving thing, my mother-in-law, who we had the most experience caregiving, passed away a couple years ago, but now my parents are reaching that age and stage. So cycle 2 is beginning.
Nice. Absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah. And as we've seen with this population, or where we are, that more and more people are stepping into these roles. Hey, Shawanda, she has joined us and said, Happy National Caregivers Day. Thank you. Yes, this is National Caregivers Day. Thank you, Joe Biden. This is our 2nd year. So yeah, we want to do that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and talk a little bit about your business and interweave the questions and conversation between business and caregiving, because it is a balancing act, so to speak. And we know there's no, straight line of balance. You're kind of capitulating back and forth. And we just want to talk to that. So anyone listening, live now or to the recording later and is looking for some respite and relief in the angst that they're feeling in this current role will hear your story and know they're not alone. So I thank you first and foremost for your willingness to share your story, and then we'll just jump right in. So tell us a little bit, how did you end up being what do we want to call it, a hot mess tamer?
I think I've always been a hot mess tamer. One boss that I had, she's like, what I love about you is I could put you at the end of a fire hose and you make the water go where it needs to go, or any of the information. So it's always been something I'm good at, being able to prioritize things and work out the best approach.
Yes.
So I have, background in technology management. That's what I've done my whole career. And when I started as an entrepreneur, I kind of carried that forward. I was working as a technology management to larger companies and hated it just as much as I did when I was in corporate. And then was enjoying, though, finding all these cool tools to play with as an entrepreneur or solopreneur as myself, and realized my peer group was really struggling with the technology side of their business. They didn't know how to use it or how to integrate it into their processes, or really how to maximize it for their benefit. And so I pivoted to start helping solopreneurs with their tech.
Okay. Yeah. And did that come from finding or experiencing that you were really enjoying the fact that you could do it so effortlessly, whereas you saw it was, like you mentioned, a big struggle for other people? It's not a big deal. Because that's a lot of times where people find their gift is it's something that you do effortlessly that everyone else's head is about to explode.
Yeah. I had one friend, and I was using her services. She did style stuff, Cindy Porter, and she was telling me all of the struggles she was having with her tools. And I was like, Cindy, would you be my guinea pig and allow me to just really evaluate your tools and give you a better plan? And I was like, I don't know if I could take my big tech company experience and apply it to a solopreneur, but I'd like to try. Yeah. And so she allowed me that opportunity, and that was the beginning of the end for me. I had to continue because it was such a big impact it had on her ability to run her business more smoothly and not having to hire a bunch of people to do things because the technology could do some of those repetitive, repeatable things.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I love that people who find their stride in things that they love to do see an opportunity where other people see an obstacle, and they take a leap into it. Like there's something internal that goes, I know I can do this. This looks exciting. I'll probably be good at it. You know what? Let me try it. Let me just see. And that's, so as an entrepreneur who's doing something you love, it absolutely is requisite, if you're listening, that you stay in that realm. Right now, you're in a realm where things don't make sense. The timing of your life is kind of out of sorts, and it will absolutely require that you do things that you've never done before. And the willingness to do that is how you continue to thrive in business. Your willingness to do things you've never done before, the uncomfortable, when it's inconvenient, is absolutely incredible. I'd love for you to share something about like one of your favorite clients, right? So we can get an idea of, as supporting people that are caregiver entrepreneurs, we want to know who we can refer your way. So anybody listening to this goes, we really want to elevate people who are in these roles, because generating demand at times can almost be an impossibility. You're just balancing, fulfilling the clients that you have while you're fulfilling the needs of the person who has, medical needs and daily activities and a daily living needs. So if we can support Mary Sue, I'm saying Mary Sue Dahill with some referrals today. Definitely. Let's make that happen, y'all. Anybody listening now and to the recording, it's never too late to refer a client. Know that. Please understand that. So tell us one of your favorite clients.
Well, you are one of my favorite clients as well. But I'll share about her name is Lauren Chatema, and her business is Intentional Acting. She is an acting coach. And why I like her story is because she's pretty typical of my business owners that I work with. Is, when the pandemic shut everything down, she had to let go of her support staff because all actors were out of business at that time. And she couldn't make her systems work. She had systems, but her support staff were the one running it. And so she had, like an email marketing tool. She had a CRM. She had landing page. She had like 3 to 5 tools. And because they all had different support teams, she could not figure out how to make them work together on her own. And so she came to me because the one solution model for her made so much sense, because she can contact my support team and get help actually creating a sales funnel, or, actually setting up an event registration, confirmation, and reminders front to back. Whereas before she was struggling, like for months after the pandemic hit, she couldn't even communicate with her community.
Wow. Yeah. And that, go ahead, Lisa, because I know Lisa does improv. So, let's let her jump in and engage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I tell you what, COVID just shut everything down. It was so frustrating. But I will say the amazing thing is, out of all of that, we as practitioners and performers started communities online and started doing virtual, and it kind of opened up another avenue. And really, for applied improv and for a lot of things, we thought, oh, that's not going to work. And it actually works better, and we have better reach on multiple fronts. But I've seen some pretty amazing, I'm kind of funny about things on that, but pretty amazing performances on, virtually speaking and everything. But just to roll with it and, to see what we can do with virtual backgrounds to storytell. And it was like kind of a gut punch, but then it was just like, well, let's just see what happens. And it was really fun.
Yeah. I initially, I think, she was doing her classes online. She had been doing them in person, and she expected to go back to being in person. But she hasn't, because her students prefer the online, and she does have a bigger reach, and it's so much easier to attend something.
Well, and the other thing too is what I realize is some people who, for improv, that's already kind of a scary thing. This is safer. This format is safer. And so a lot of people got engaged with the initial, experience online, just to go, oh, I can do this. And now I'm noticing even in Austin had a big scene, and it's coming back. San Antonio's coming back too. That it's kind of like, oh, all right. And it's just, I'm a better facilitator for going virtual. And I haven't been performing in a long time, but I feel like I'd be a better performer too. It's just it's a different muscle that I don't think we would have exercised any other way. So it's, in an odd way, a silver lining of that time. So
I agree.
Yeah. I would actually say that, I see that the pivot that people were required to engage in during COVID, the people who embraced it and did the pivot came out stronger and are finding themselves even now, because change has sped up. The rate of change is consistently increasing right now in our world, especially with the digital impact, right? We've got all these AI things happening now. And the people who embraced that change, and, the term, everybody got sick of pivot to the point where
or paradigm shift.
Yes, thank you. We'll use paradigm shift. Yes. The people who were able to make that happen are able to adapt now, even now. Right. And it was not easy. Like, if you're in a caregiving role, everything shuts down. You were already, to the point of having some point for some people, it's very isolating. And then to be completely in that situation. So again, I applaud you for, doing that for you and your clients, because I know working with you personally over a year now, you constantly help me to shift. You constantly, our conversations are always so enlightening, because I'll come in and I'll have one concept and I'll be frozen in like, well, I don't know what to do. And then you'll just go, for the lack of a better term, womp, right? Right. And all of a sudden it's like, well, that was magically easy.
Yeah, I think what you do that I love is you are big, you have things going on in your business and you're trying to have a bigger impact, and you share what your end goal is, even though you don't know how to get there.
Yes.
And so that's what we collaborate on, is how do you get there to have that impact? And that's so much fun.
Yes, it is a lot of fun. And I would say, so it goes to, I recently was on a post where someone was talking about, referencing Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And I realized that I actually start with who. Right. And I think that's, for this community, is going to become powerful. And just thinking about that, asking you what inspired you to say yes to being a caregiver, because that, as soon as you say yes to that, it changes who you are. It immediately changes. You're no longer just an entrepreneur. You're no longer just a wife. You're no longer just a mother, right? Or a sister or a daughter. You literally become someone different. And without the monitoring of it, you will become somebody you don't like really fast.
Right.
I see Lisa's even laughing. That's because almost everybody I know, they either, you go to the dark and you come out, or you hit the edge of the dark and you come out. Some people just go to the dark. So yeah, tell us about what inspired you to say yes to being that, becoming a caregiver, and how has that experience been for you?
Yeah, so I think it's just from childhood. Actually, my parents are from the Cleveland area, Ohio, and they moved here to Northern Virginia. And so we didn't have family around, and we would go home once a year, basically, to see our extended family. And I always felt very detached, even though, I have good relationships with all of them, you're just not involved. And so I always wanted to be near my family. So I knew I would live near my parents and hopefully my siblings. So one of my siblings also lives around here. And then my husband is the youngest by a lot in his family. So his mother is about 15 years older than my parents were. So, and she was alone. So it was him and his mom in this area, and his siblings lived outside the area. So I knew from when we got married that we were going to be the ones providing support to his mom. And so it was, I don't know, it's kind of an honor to provide support. It was a lot of work, but it was nice to be able to do that for his mom. And I do want to say that my husband was the main caregiver. I supported him. A lot of people think it's always the wife, but it was not. He took a lot of the burden, and I helped out as well. So we shared a lot of that responsibility, which was nice.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, because it again, the paradigm is changing dramatically, because it used to always be the daughter, the sister, right, the mother, right, but we're seeing more and more males take on these roles for their siblings, their parents, and family members. So I applaud your husband, right?
Yeah,
he's willing to do that. But yeah, as you said, it changes your life. The impact is that person is in the household. Everybody's life changes. Everybody in the household is impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, and what was cool is, she actually stayed in her apartment for a lot of the time and then did transition to assisted living. we were her support. But my parents, because they also live near us, they would also do stuff with her. So it was kind of like, it was a big community of people that provided support, since Patrick was the only child in this area and only family member in this area to help out.
Yes. Catherine Brown has chimed in, and she's one of my colleagues, a member of Women's Sales Pros, which made a huge impact on my career. Having that community, which is also an impetus for how this came about, was thinking about how life changed for me when I became parts of communities that had the specific conversations of what I wanted to create, or who I wanted to become, or how I wanted my business to develop. And that helps elevate me as an individual out of the challenges. So tell us, is there any specific story or experience that you would share, how you bumped up against the hardship of what was happening, yet you were able to create something better or greater for all involved?
Yeah, I mean, we were really trying to support Bernice and her desire to, live in her home on her own. So she had actually been a geriatric nurse herself. She didn't really want to go into assisted living. And so it was, what was the hardest part was realizing that when she would get sick, it was never going back to normal. Like, it would become a new normal because of her age and her other things. So she would get ill, she would get back, either there might be a physical limitation after becoming well, or there'd be more of a mental diminishment after being ill. That was the hardest part to kind of accept and realize, because as a young person, you get sick, you bounce right back to where you were. And that it was a constant adjustment when she would, a minor illness would change everything again.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely amazing. Well, one of the things that I want to see if Lisa has any questions, or because we had a discussion about how we wanted to elevate you, your experience, your business, so that it had a dual effect, right? People could know that here you are, this amazing person who has, being celebrated on National Caregivers Day, because you have, said yes to that at some point in your career, as well as let people know about the business that you have, so that we can help you generate some demand and some leads for people who want to do, we call it conscious business, people who want to actually do things that are socially impactful by helping people who are helping people. So very excited that we could do that for you. Lisa, was there anything that you wanted to inquire about that I hadn't touched on yet?
I was just curious of how, how did you manage like, you think your day is going to be X, Y, and Z, and then something happens with, caregiving, with your supporting your husband, in the caregiving. How did you adapt to that? And how did you embrace that?
Yes. Well, so
new normal.
my husband was not very good at adjusting immediately. So like, and this I learned before we were, helping his mother, was just taking care of little kids. They would get sick and he just couldn't adjust his day at all. So I had just accepted that I was the emergency person. Like, if they got sick, and it's actually one of my strengths is adaptability. So if someone got sick, including Bernice, I would adjust my calendar, because I think I was just more open and willing to reach out to somebody and be like, I got to reschedule, this appointment, or figure out how I can work it into my other commitments. And so that was, I think, I had accepted that long before Bernice became, needing support. And so that's how we worked. He was better at the all of the healthcare bills, managing the, the normal management stuff, and something scheduled. So things that were scheduled, we would break it up. But emergency things, I would usually take point, and then he would come in when he was available.
That's great, because there's that logistical part of the bills, getting to the appointment, making the appointments, getting to the appointments, and then the rando stuff that happens.
Yes.
Like yesterday, the bus that was taking my brother didn't pick him up from therapy, and so I had to make another phone call. It's just like I did all the due diligence of making sure everything's set up, and it still happens. And it's just, you kind of have to just roll with it in a way that
yes, I don't, because I live in Northern Virginia, a lot of people I know work in classified areas, like a SCIF, where they can't actually take their phone into meetings or anything like that. And I don't think I could operate at all like that. Because you're off, you can't get access to them for hours. So I think that would be hard for people like that, but so I never put myself in those positions.
Yeah. I can see one of the things that, you guys both mentioned, there's been so many times as a person who's presenting, having a client that I have a coaching call or a presentation that I'm, paid to deliver. And then I'm also sleeping next to my sister inpatient at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So facilitating and traversing those experiences has been incredibly challenging. Yet I will say it actually boils down to mindset. So for me, when like we were saying, is there anything that you have that helps you find and maintains clarity, right? Because it definitely requires seeing clear past the circumstance. Because if you get too ensconced or too engaged in the circumstance, you could literally explode, right? You could just take a spiral, and the next thing you know, you're somewhere exhausted. But when you can actually see through and above and beyond it, you go through it faster, it resolves itself, and you know that this isn't going to be the last time. So,
right.
What I find is people who don't actually do the work to understand that this is a new normal, a new state of being, they lose it every time something doesn't go as planned. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're in a situation that nothing's going to, to me, I go to the other shrink. Nothing is going to go as planned. So when it does, then I have a happy surprise.
Exactly. Well, I think it does help, because it was my husband and I that we could discuss the situation. It wasn't just my tunnel vision. It was both of ours. So it helped, I think, to balance some of that. I don't know, being open to seeing what was really going on.
Yeah. Well, I know we want to honor your time. We got about roughly 6 more minutes for your interview. So I definitely want to ask you, there's so many people who are stepping into these roles. I know as a speaker, part of my messaging interweaves in the fact that, I am a live-in, aid, and share caregiving, and I constantly traverse the unplanned, the unexpected, all the time. So normalizing that has empowered me to continue to build and thrive in business. Right. So I would love for you to share, is there any, insight, tools, information that has helped you to continue to move forward regardless of what was happening, so that and even give an example, right? If you have one, of how something went, bat crap crazy, and I'm keeping it PG, folks. Bat crap crazy, and you were still able to make it work.
Let's see. Well, I think one is I don't schedule my full day. Having a day full of back-to-back stuff is very rare. So I do try to space it out so I have some flexibility in my days. I think that was important, just being able to adjust. And then, this is kind of I don't know, it feels dumb, but it was so helpful. I created this packet that of stuff about Bernice. It had a copy of her driver's license, her passport, her medical cards, her list of her medicines, list of her major medical procedures she had done, so that when I would go into, a doctor's office, whoever was with her could take the packet. And that made such a difference, because she had dementia, and actually at some point threw out her driver's license because she was no longer driving. So, expecting her to have the material on her was not realistic. So that packet made such a difference in being prepared. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is my mom created one. My parents do not have dementia, but they're, in their 80s now. She made a packet. When my dad went to the hospital recently, she had it all right there. And it
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, and I just learned a new trick, right? So everybody watching, this is actually the first time I've ever done StreamYard. Woo-hoo!
Oh, yeah, I know, being able to put people's comments in there.
So Catherine Brown put a comment when her mom was alive, and they, she's was at some point an entrepreneurial caregiver. She said her mom helped pay for the weekly housekeeper, game changer. And I know here we actually, before we had aides coming in at a certain time, we actually had to do housekeeping, because just having someone do that activity, oh my God, it was just like it was heaven, because when they finished, it smelled and looked all pretty and shiny. But two, just knowing that wasn't required to do it all the time, was absolutely just alleviated some of the angst. So thank you, Catherine, for sharing that.
Yes.
But I'm so excited. I figured out a new tool.
Well, then, Mary Sue, I mean, I've done that for my parents and my aunt, made a little photo book for, those living with dementia, just remembering who people are, places, things that they would, might tap in for a moment of a reality. But I didn't think about doing a whole book like that, or, a resource, because my brother is out of state. So for me, I'm writing that one down. That's just a brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and she wasn't my mother. I didn't know what her medical history was either, or what was important. So actually being able to hand the paper over was much faster than reading it to the doctors. So yeah, it made a big difference.
And doctors, I don't know if you know this now, but I mean, this is kind of new to me, but most of them have portals. And so you can probably upload some of that stuff, so that perhaps, upload that for them to have it on file. And that might be a short. It
was always the emergency room. That was where you needed it.
Yep, that's true.
The emergency room. Oh my God. Yes.
Cool. Or like, the ambulance came. You need to be able to give them the details about medicines they're on.
Exactly. So, well, I know we are at, at your time. So I want to honor that, because everybody has many, many things to do. And we want to say thank you so much for sharing your insights. And, I can say anyone, I want you to let people know how to get in touch with you. If you have, you can pop that in the chat, like at any time afterwards, because you just go live and put it in there. So we have that history. So anybody watching, just, scroll down, and Mary Sue is going to pop in her contact information in the chat box for y'all, and just say thank you. I really appreciate who you are, and personally working with you on an area that was a self-limiting challenge for me. And you actually being so flexible and understanding, like you could speak to, like I would get on the call sometime and I'd be like, oh my God, they're driving me crazy. I just can't take it anymore. And you would like literally be so gracious to let me do that for a couple of minutes, talk me off the ledge, and then we'd get focused. So, and this is why I'm doing this, having community, having people who understand you, not just your business, but you is powerful, and it's how you grow in business. Because if they're just talking at you about the business and they're not talking to you as an entire person, it's going to be a struggle. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, Lisa, did you want to say anything before Mary Sue shares her contact information?
No, I just a pleasure to meet you, and I might be giving you a call here pretty soon too.
It works.
Yeah, so
magical.
To contact me, it's worksmarterdigital.com. And that's the same for my Instagram as well. If you want to go there, I do like a marketing minute, little video snippets on things you can do in your own business.
Yes, and I will say she is absolutely amazing. I was referred to Mary Sue by another accountability group I was a part of, and fell in love with her and been with her ever since. So,
yep, it's been a pleasure.
Yes. Well, thank you. Well, you can go ahead and log off. We'll come and meet you in the studio in the back if you want to wait for us. But I want to let everyone know our next guest, Reginald Ryder, he is going to be at the top of the hour. So Lisa and I giving ourselves little breaks in the midst here. So we'll be right back. Hang in there. Lisa, we'll just pop that in the note too to let people go, be right back at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we will see you all shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hey, there you go.
How are you?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Yes,
We got to start meeting like this.
we're counting down. We got like a minute, like 30 seconds to go
Okay.
before we're at the top of the hour. Oh, here's Lisa. Add her to the stream.
Oh, is it backwards?
I don't know.
No, it's not.
It looks straight to me.
That's straight.
That's so weird because yours looks normal, but mine looks backwards.
Well, so I have it where, let me see. I have like a streaming.
It looks fine on this end.
Yeah, it looks
Oh,
fine.
it does?
Yeah.
So you might have it mirrored. And all of this is being recorded. So
Hi, people.
but you know what? That's okay. So hey, Muscle Beach is here with us. And that's the point of this community. I want to go ahead and welcome our next guest, entrepreneur, caregiver, Reginald Ryder. And I am going to read your lovely bio that you sent over. You know what, Lisa, I'm going to start having you do this because I still have a little tickle in my throat.
Oh.
Anyways, here we go. Reginald Ryder is an educator, administrator, author, and the founder of Thriving Life Coaching, LLC. He has over 30 years of experience working with thousands of students in higher education and K through 12 settings. And since 2018, he has been coaching college and high school students in academic readiness skills. Reginald's motto is every student needs a little TLC. He holds a bachelor's of science in political science and a master's of education in college student personnel administration. Reginald has worked in administration, multicultural student services, and academic advising at various universities, and as an assistant dean and director of guidance at independent schools. Thriving Life Coaching provides coaching to students to help them manage their time, get organized, master study skills, and advocate for themselves. In addition to coaching, Reginald teaches a college student success course at Northern Virginia Community College and authored Passing the Baton, a guide and memoir of college success. Well, welcome, Mr. Reginald Ryder.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Lisa, did you want to say welcome or say anything before we get started?
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise,
I'm looking forward to hearing your perspectives and everything about your business and your caretaking or caregiving opportunities. So.
Yes. Awesome. Well, we're going to jump off. Was there anything that I missed in your bio that you'd like to add before we get started?
No, I think you covered it well. I could have said it better myself.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really excited to hear about your journey. And again, today is National Caregivers Day. So we are celebrating this is literally like an unsung hero, right? As we all know, being people in that role, there's not a lot of appreciation accolades that happen for people in this role. So this is a great day to celebrate you and for you to share one about your business, because again, we want to create opportunities for people to reach out to you and, create social impact with our communities of caregivers, because we don't always have a lot of wiggle room to generate business, as well as to share your experience of doing this dual role. So anyone watching who's in that role can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? There is a pot of gold possibly at the end of the rainbow. It's not all dark and difficult times. So
Gotcha.
We'll start by, you sharing a little bit about your business.
Yeah. So my business really kind of started happenstance. I'd been thinking about doing this for a little while, and had the idea and kind of sat on it, And finally it was just like, one day, my wife and I were out shopping one day, and someone who happened to be a student, I told him a little bit about what I did. And I have a daughter who's a sophomore in high school. Would you be willing to coach her? And at the time, I didn't have a shingle, I didn't have anything, but I said yes, because I figured at least that was an opportunity. And so I kind of did work with her, kind of pro bono, and then it just kind of flourished from there. The pandemic happened, and then it seemed like, I had a pot kind of already. The goal was beginning to kind of fill, because I started getting clients and parents who were looking for help with their students, especially during the pandemic, because it was such a kind of a precarious time for students, and learning wasn't really happening in the manner that it previously had been. And so that opened up a world in and of itself. But alongside that, I also wrote the book, and wrote the book in probably like about 6 months, I think is how long it took me to write it. And so those two things kind of offered momentum. When I published the book itself, within the first 3 weeks it was on Amazon, was a bestseller for adult and continuing education and study skills. And so I was floored that someone, little old me, who just thought I had an idea that maybe people would resonate with a little bit, kind of took off. And so it's been going well ever since.
Absolutely amazing. Lisa, anything you wanted to ask about that before we move on?
Well, no, I was just curious about what your favorite clients and stuff. What's something that is like jazzes you, or like do you have a story that is just like, yeah, this is that alignment of following what your intuition and intention is, and then with your client is how has that, I guess, converged?
Yeah, so I think when I first started, I was doing it via Zoom. I worked on the platform, so I'm kind of used to it in one respect, but didn't know how it would really resonate with people in helping, in that respect. And so, fortunately, the first few clients that I had were ones that were, I wouldn't say needy, but I'd say just needing some support. And so it really kind of began from that. But what I've been able to see in working with the students that I work with is that a lot of them have increased their study skills, have increased their kind of own awareness of what it takes for them to be successful. And as I tell them, our relationship really is about me helping you find repeatable habits that you can get the results that you're looking for. And once you do that, then my job is just to stand on the sideline and just, coach you from point A to point B, till you get to your ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that in and of itself has been pretty gratifying.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And I put it there, finding repeatable habits is success. And being at that age in college, right? I remember being in college and, oh my God, party, right? I went to Howard University. There was a saying at Howard, right? Ain't no party like an HU party.
Because an HU party don't stop. Now, I've not been to the same parties you've been to, but I know that saying. I think they superimpose that for every college and university across the country.
Exactly. Well, and so having those repeatable habits, that drive success. So, making time to enjoy yourself is literally a repeatable habit. And if you don't interweave that with the other things, you'll find that you're partying all the time. So how has that been, working with that age where they're getting freedom, many of them for the first time? And, man, the parties be a calling. So
yes, they do. They do. So one of the things that I tell students and I work with them on as much as I possibly can is I tell them, you need to work hard 6 days out of the week. However long it takes and whatever, you have to do in the manner of work, preparing for presentations or whatever the case may be, put in the work. But at the same time, I tell them, one day is yours, where you put on the blinders and you put on the earmuffs if need be, or earplugs, and you go and have, productive fun. But sometimes productive fun is that, and sometimes productive funds are lots of other alternatives that go along with that as well. But that should be a day that you have earned in every sense of the word. And so clearly after putting in that kind of time and getting hopefully the kind of results you're looking for, that's your reward. And I, even for myself as a first generation kid, realized that pretty early on, that it was important to, put in the time and put in the effort that I needed to, but at the same time, it was time for me to have fun. And so I made sure that I got that in, and I was successful in doing so. So I'm, in some respects, they're parroting what it is that I did, but doing it in their own, 2022, 2023 style.
Yes. And that's, what I hear you saying is so powerful, because it doesn't only set them up for success scholastically. It's something that, they'll take with them afterwards, because they'll see the results that they're generated. And so often people don't have anything to fall back on how to change or to impact or accelerate, or have something that's accessible that will help them, in the midst of challenges. Like, oh, what did I do before? Wait, how did I do? You can
Right.
go back. So, what you're doing is incredibly powerful, and thank you, because right now there's so much social media that people think that going to school is not necessary. So,
Oh no,
you know,
it definitely is. I mean, granted, you can have a job and a career and things of that sort, but the earning power of a college degree holder versus that of a high school degree holder is very different. And then if you add masters or certifications or advanced study beyond that, it's definitely true. I typically tell students in this kind of autonomy, I think, and advocacy that I mentioned before is really important. But I say to students all the time, you're on your own from the standpoint of your individual responsibility for yourself, and you being accountable for any and all your actions from the point that you hit your time on campus until you leave. But I tell them, so you're on your own, but you don't have to do it alone. And you need to figure out and find that network for yourself in a similar way that you did in high school. Everybody had a favorite teacher, a favorite advisor, a favorite coach, a favorite somebody who supported them, throughout their time in school. You have to do the very same thing in creating that network for you at a place that goes from maybe 2,000 to 3,000 students in a high school to 18,000, 50,000 at your college or university.
exactly.
And it doesn't have to be a large group of people, but just what I call go-to people that when you're in a fix or you're not sure what to do, that's who you go to get help and resources and whatever respect that they can give them.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you for anyone who's listening, to this broadcast, and of someone who is about to, send their child off to college, or you have a child who's getting ready to go to college, and you have that nervousness about your belief in their ability to succeed, like, because they're going to leave the nest and they no longer have your watchful eye, your careful eye on them. That's a conversation. We'll have Reginald put his information in, and that's a conversation. Like I always tell people, thinking that somebody's going to find out what you don't know is the beginning of a decline. Because they are going to find out, because when you keep making decisions and you're aware you don't know, the decisions never lead you anywhere great. So have a conversation with Reginald and see if you can't get on a path to create some success. As we move on, I wanted to just start to drift, and let's have a conversation about caregiving. And,
Sure.
What had you say yes to a caregiving role?
Well, so a little backstory. My mother passed away in August of 2022. And her and my father had been together for, because they right before she passed, they celebrated their 66th wedding anniversary. So pretty much they've known each other, all their lives in that respect. But one of the last things that she said to us and to my siblings was, make sure you take care of your father. And my dad is, in his 90s. My dad's a U.S. vet. He was in the United States Air Force for 27 years, raised 5 kids, and, has done well for himself. And so not only that, I consider it a honor to be able to do so, but it was, very much at the core of what my mom's, parting words were to us. Make sure that we do that. And so fortunately, because of the kind of work that I do, there's a lot more flexibility that I have in my schedule versus my siblings. I volunteered, or I maybe even voluntold, but volunteered all the same to, put myself in that position. And so between my siblings and I go basically about every other month to be with him and to, care for him, take care of him in every way that I can. He's doing well. He's gaining weight. He's spry as ever, and keeps me on my toes. But it's, as I look at it, it's one of those roles that I while I would have volunteered for it, I wouldn't have volunteered for it in the way or the manner that it happened. But I'm here, and so now it's just a matter of putting all those things aside and just moving forward with my mom's wish, but what I know to be the right thing and the best thing in supporting it.
Yeah, that I love the love, right? And I go back and I want to point people to see, the other way, right? I want to point people this is happening, right? I know, right?
You were right the first time.
The logo, because again, what you're going to hear throughout the day, and as you just heard with Reginald, is there's a love of what he does and how he imparts and helps these students to be more directed and successful in their collegiate life that will carry them thereafter. And then he had that juncture where there was somebody he loved who needed that love. So the heart again is there's two loves and they compete, right? And how do we get them to that green where they're growing and thriving? They're not, like at the bottom where it first initiates tearing us apart. So, Lisa, did you want to add anything or ask any questions as we, continue this conversation?
No, I just was curious about the, I guess I'm always curious if location are you in the same area?
No,
because I know location can be challenging. So
definitely.
Do you have a support system for yourself? And then is there a support system for your father that you navigate and I don't say manage, but navigate to make sure things are taken care of?
Sure. My family, my nuclear family, my wife and my kids do I think a pretty good job in checking in on me. And even this past week, we had a conversation, several conversations, but a conversation about me being a little bit more deliberate with what it was that I needed, because in some respects, I'm still grieving my mother and the loss of my mom, but at the same time, I'm also in the kind of the throes of day to day, taking care of my dad, especially when I'm doing it and I'm there. But even when I'm not there, taking that time and making sure I'm very deliberate with taking care of me. And so, believe it or not, after this session that we're having today, I've got some self-care that I'm going to take care of and some things that I'm going to do for myself. But I have to be reminded of doing that. And I tend to be a bit of a workhorse, maybe a team of horses, not just a workhorse at times. And so I was reminded of that as well. So there are a lot of times sometimes I get taps on the shoulder and say things, and sometimes I get, kicks under the table, and don't know where they come from, but they help. So they keep me in line in that regard. But my siblings and I think have offered a pretty sustainable and substantial network of support. And even in the throes of doing it, when I'm staying with one of my sisters now, and we're all there. So we kind of are able to kind of build and work off of each other with respect to how that works. And that's been helpful and I think very beneficial to my dad, but I think it's also been helpful and beneficial to us because at times, because we don't all live in the same location, it can be a little isolating at times. And so you don't really have that relief or that release at times that you sometimes do.
Well, and I think that's the thing that I've noticed is within siblings, I think everybody tries to do their best, but sometimes there's different agendas and different personalities and different things that I always say, how can this help or hinder the caregiving or the medical aspects of caregiving for your loved one? And so that's my lens of going, is this helping or hindering having this little verbal tiff, off to the side, and so keeping that healthy communication and navigating that can be unto itself a whole nother
It's almost like a fifth job, but it's a job worth having and a job worth
exactly.
Sure you understand all the things that are at play.
Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you talked about self-care. I'm actually, I get a little, when people talk about self-care, I always had that twinge, like, I want to go do a massage and a facial. And, oh God, I can feel the steam and hear like, I literally like like I'm literally visualizing what it is. I have my robe on and they're offering me water with fruit floating in it right now.
Exactly, exactly. Don't forget the fan and the grapes. That's important. Make sure that happens. Make sure that happens.
I have literally left the building at this point. It's like, come back, Meshell, come back. No, but I wanted to ask you, aside, like, is self-care something that I was thinking, and I put it there as something that you calendar, and that was an assumption, but is it something that you actually schedule? Because I know you speaking to the fact that you are doing this with your students and for other people. Sometimes in caregiving, we forget to do the things that we teach other people for success for ourselves. So when you initiated the caregiving role, was this something that took a back burner? And then you realize, like, yeah, this must become a priority? Or did you know to do it as a priority immediately?
Yes, yes, and yes. but what I initially wasn't really taking that great a care of myself, because the priority at that point was I was trying to figure out a process to the system and working with my dad, which I didn't really have down pat that well. But fortunately for him, he wanted to go on walks. So walks for us were something that we just kind of incorporated within that. I like to play golf, and so there were a couple of times when he didn't play, but I took him out to play golf with me, and things like that. I've become a lot more deliberate. I have a membership at a masseuse, or with the masseuse, and so I've been using that as part of it. So you talk about calendaring. I actually calendared what I'm doing this afternoon probably 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
But made it a deliberate point. So I feel like if I write it down or if I calendar it, then it's something I'm going to do. And so if that makes it that much easier, I think, for people as caregivers to be able to do that very thing, to me, that makes sense. And moving forward. So I try and be as deliberate as I possibly can with that. I've been exercising as well. Making sure that I'm eating right and eating well. I still like my junk food every once in a while, but even still, I find time and make time to make sure that, the good food that I'm feeding my dad is, food that I'm eating or that I'm partaking in as well. So it all is very much a part of the fabric of what it means to be a caregiver, and not losing sight of yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Because you're no good if they're no good if you're no good.
No. Oh my God. There's been so many days, honestly, just to piggyback on that, or dovetail, whatever the term is, where I was literally fighting resentment because I was so overwrought and, consistently day after day after day, hadn't taken a break, hadn't, like, getting up at like 6 a.m. and then not going to bed until midnight. And it just became very aware that it was, I was the one making that decision. No one was actually making me do that.
Right.
I was telling myself a story about what was necessary instead of actually, creating a vision of what was possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of surprising and shocking what I've at least found for myself to be able to handle in the way of my plate, and being a caregiver, and the entrepreneurial side, being able to balance those 2 or 3 things all at the same time.
Exactly. Lisa, your experience with any of this, you want to?
Yeah. So you're talking about self-care. So you schedule that. I'm still curious because of siblings. I'm always looking for tools and tips of how to streamline communication. Mm-hmm. Is there something, are y'all using Zoom calls or text stream? How are y'all managing that? So it's, I love the self-care tip, but also, practical on how have you navigated that or found the best way for this time in this season to communicate the best?
Well, when we're in each other's company, then we do talk, or we will talk about kind of what's going on and what's happening, or in either de-escalating a situation if necessary, or figuring out a good plan of action and moving forward with tips and strategies. My sister is in the healthcare field. One of my sisters in the healthcare field, and so what she brings to the table, I think, is just a wealth of information, wealth of knowledge. So I think there's that. We talk, I think, beyond that, pretty often during the day, just, and, find out, how each other's day is going and those types of things. And at the same time, especially with the advent of, iPhones, use FaceTime to, connect with my dad and talk to him when I'm not there. So there are all these connection points that can and do happen within context of it. And in that respect, it's been great. We've had to have tough conversations, but even those tough conversations have been easier just because I think my siblings and I, in general, genuinely like each other and love each other, which helps. We're different we're different personalities and all of that, but I think when it's all said and done, we all have the same thing in mind. Just doing, again, my mother's last wishes, but also what we know to do for ourselves.
Right.
In regard to my dad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I know I want to honor your time. So the interviews are, 30 minutes, and I want to give you wrap it up. And just like, is there anything you could share with someone who is newly engaged in being an entrepreneur, caregiver, or thinking about making that decision, right? So they're moving in that direction, or they're just, getting engaged in it, and, they're like, right? Because I don't know if there's even a conversation that can prepare you, because there's so many unknowns and unplans and unexpected that you start to interface with immediately. And also, the insights can, help you start to move through it a little bit faster.
Right.
So is there anything you want to share? A story, insight, and anything?
I mean, if you had told me 10 years ago, if you had told me when I was 17 that I would have written a book, have a business, be an adjunct faculty member at a community college, and a caregiver all the same, I'd have thought, okay, maybe one of the three, maybe two of the four, but not all four at the same time. I wish I could have said I coined this for myself, but I think I saw or heard Steve Harvey say this in an Instagram post or whatever the case may be. If you're looking for the perfect moment or the perfect time to be ready to do something, there isn't one. You just have to dive in. And that was literally what I did. I didn't know, even when I wrote the book, that I was going to write a book. I'd had an idea in my head that I thought I could, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was going to be, coach or coaching and doing the things that I'm doing right now with, about 10 to 12 kids in about 5 different states, via Zoom at lots of different colleges, universities. I didn't know what I didn't know, but I knew what my passion was. And so I think so I'd say it this way: if you're looking to be, there's no preparation for being ready to just do it and start, but the thing that you're doing should be your passion project that you would do if you weren't getting paid to do it. And when you find out what that gift and that talent is, and you can then share it with the world, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Absolutely. So worth it. Yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So find your passion project is what I say.
And I love the fact that you listed like all these different things that you're like, no one tells you that this is, they just don't. You just, I'm so excited about this moment, but there's nothing that can prepare you for the future, because the future is unknown, and it's not anything that we as a society even talk enough about, right? We can give you structures and steps to, I think, emotionally prepare you, and that's about it, because no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. No one knows what's coming.
No, really don't. You really don't. But I'm I'm blessed and I'm fortunate with people like you, Meshell, and a lot of other people in my life who have poured into it. And we have definitely had our time and our conversations about all those types of things. But I think it's also that I think building a community of people like-minded caregivers or entrepreneurs or whatever it may be for you, that I think also helps, because I think what I've noticed for the two of us in the time that we've been working together is that we push each other and we hold each other accountable, and we push each other and we hold each other accountable, and we say why, and we and ask all the things that we can or that we need to in order to make sure that maybe you haven't thought of everything, but make sure you cover this too.
Exactly. Yes, you don't have to know all the things to take a step forward. The Martin Luther King, as we're still in February, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we are at the top of these 30 minutes, and we want to, how can someone get in contact with you? I put the link to your book there,
Sure.
and I shared the link to your information earlier, which I'll show again. But you tell them, how your preference for how people get in touch with you.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just to either my email direct, RRYDER, number 4 TLC@gmail.com, or just go to the website, www.reginaldryder.com. And in the information that you'll see about the business and the things that I do, there's a form that you can fill out, and that form comes directly to me. I offer anyone and everyone a 15-minute free consultation just to kind of hear your story, to learn a little bit more about what's going on and what's happening, as well as to tell you a little about myself. And then, if it's something that we can mutually agree upon, and working with your student or working with you, I do it. I work with students who are doing well and want to do better. I want to work with students who aren't doing so hot and want to get to where they need to be. And so I think the name speaks it all. It's not about surviving, it's about thriving. It's about doing the best that you possibly can. And so thriving life coaching means that it's not just going to apply to what you're doing in that particular space, but that it's going to be something that can continue on in your life beyond that. So
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. Lisa, any closing remarks?
No, it's just a pleasure to meet you, and just
Likewise.
Looking forward to visiting more in the future. So
Please do. Yes.
Thank you for being a part of the C.U.R.E. community, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Again, everyone listening, our goal here is duplicitous. We want you to hear the story, so that if you are an entrepreneur, caregiver, small business owner, freelancer, solopreneur, and you're in that caregiving role, know you're not alone. There are many of us out there. We're gathering and we're creating places for support, as well as consciously doing business to elevate people who have a heart for what they do. It's a different level of business that if you've never experienced a heart-based business owner who is doing things like this, it will change your life. So reach out to Reginald, as we said earlier. If you have a student, you want to have a conversation about a student, and he will make those crooked roads straight for that student.
There you go. Oh, one last plug real quick. Just if you're interested, buy the book. I think the book kind of says it and does it all in some respects. It's called Passing the Baton, a guide and memoir of college success. A little bit of my story, a little bit of my job as a practitioner, and then just kind of full circle, bring it back for individuals to be able to work with in one respect or another.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and log out. Our next person is going to come at 45 after. So we kind of balanced it. So the interviews would take about 30 minutes, and then Lisa and I could have like a little bio stretch break for 15 minutes. So we will see you guys at 45 after with our next guest, who is Paula White. And she is delightful. They all are. So,
see you in a little bit.
See you in a little bit.
Okay. Are you backstage?
No, but Reginald is. I am putting up the slide for the next. Okay. Taking that break, started eating some Ruffles or Pringles. You can't just have one, right?
No, not just one potato chip. Mm-mm.
And I looked up, I was like, wait a minute, where did the time go? Well, welcome, Paula. Let me read your lovely official bio and welcome you here to the C.U.R.E community. And I'm calling it the C.U.R.E Community Chronicles.
I love it.
You know, I love alliterations and acronyms and all that good stuff, but it's chronicling our experience of being in this role. So I'll start with reading your bio. Paula is the author of Side B. So actually, Paula White is the author of Side B Remix, Your Leadership Style, a book that uses music as a metaphor for inspiring creative perspectives and leaders. With over 2 decades of experience as a globally recognized sales leader, she has helped organizations achieve significant growth across various industries. Paula is passionate about coaching and helping individuals and organizations to realize their full potential. Her ultimate goal is to nurture the next generation of talent. Outside of work, Paula enjoys attending concerts and pursuing her interest in music by writing lyrics and co-producing songs. So welcome, Paula, to the C.U.R.E Community Chronicles. We would love, was there anything in your intro that we happened to not state that you wanted to add and let people know about you?
I think the bio is fantastic. I think the passion around, really growing leaders to the next generation of leaders, and then the music part of it makes it all so special. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Well, my co-facilitator here today, my co-host, Lisa, was there anything you wanted to add to that before we get into, having a conversation with our wonderful guest?
Oh no, let's get into it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Well, she's in improv and acting, so the music that all intertwines. So
it's all the creative,
right? It's going to be a very, very fun time today. So I want to start with talking about business, because just so people can see, we are having you here to share your experiences of being in business or having that entrepreneurial endeavor. So it's a founder, business owner, freelancer, solopreneur, entrepreneur who then decided to take one love and then evolve into another love of caregiving and supporting a friend, family member, neighbor, someone who needed some assistance with daily living and medical needs. So we will tell us about your business.
Okay. So first of all, I decided after 30 years of being in the corporate space and loving what I do to really decide to take it on my own and try it. So I am the solopreneur of a business that really encourages leaders to tap into what I'm going to reframe the softer skills as relational skills. And so we look at that approach as a balanced approach. We all know the resume skills, but we've got to have some of those relational skills to balance it, to make you an extraordinary leader. And I just started this about 2.5 years ago.
Yes. So I love what you said, the relational skills. Thinking about where we currently are, like having gone through a pandemic, right? Having what is it called? The Great Resignation, and then all that's happening in the workplace.
Right.
How has empowering and helping organizations and individuals to grow and expand those relationship skills, how has that helped them to develop their leadership in business?
Well, when we have these pandemics and massive layoffs and resignations, interestingly enough, that's the business part of it, right? The people part of it is what people remember. The layoffs, the resignations, but there is a business sense to it. So if you are a leader that doesn't relate to people, it can go very sour. It can go very bad. It can go, it can really cut into your business. So therefore, when leaders understand that they can really look at relational skills, and I'm not talking just empathy, as you know, Meshell. I am talking about curiosity and courage and kindness, those other skills that we have deep within ourselves, that if we tap into that with our people, they're going to go, that was a great experience and I understand.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So one of the things that I love about what you do is the musicality of it. So share a little bit about how that came about, because it's unique, it's different, and I know we've talked before, and being engaged and having community with you through Women's Sales Pros, I changed. I actually went and bought tones for my phone. So I have songs that play for my wake up alarms. I have songs that play for certain people, especially the difficult people in my life. I actually put on a loving song, because before I was looking at the phone, I was like, oh God, not this person, right? I would cringe. And then the song reminds me that if I want to have a better relationship with this person, it immediately reminds me to shift what I'm visualizing and seeing for what's about to happen next. So, I mean, your gift is powerful. So tell us, how have you?
It is so exciting to talk about the number one quickest way to change your emotion is through the power of music. And sometimes we need to do that, whether we're going into a board meeting, whether we've got that difficult client that's calling, or a difficult employee, or we're ready to have a conversation, or we just need energized to understand to get a project done. So if we have a leadership playlist, right, then we can tap into those songs immediately. And the reason I say a playlist is because if you just have to search for a song to make you feel that way, you'll go down a rabbit hole. If you have the playlist curated for 10 songs that make you feel energized, motivated, happy, loving, like you said, help you get out of frustration, get out of those slumps. If you have those ready to go, play it and then move on with your day. It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're ready to go. Plus, music all taps into our listening skills too. I mean, we have so much that the power of music can do that it's amazing we're not using it more in the business sense rather than just the canned background music.
Exactly. Lisa, did you want to jump in this? Because I mean,
there's so much. Yes, there's so much.
So much to unwrap right now.
So I performed on stage for about 12 years doing improv almost every week. And when I first started, I was so nervous and so and I had my playlist, and it was Tina Turner, like all of Tina Turner. And I had to do a prep walk, and I just get in my mindset, and then I just be like, and then on the way over, had different other songs. And it was just this, I want to say liturgy, but in a way, it helped me really get out of myself so that I could focus on the team and focus on what was happening and what we were creating in the moment. And so, I love that. I love that part.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because here's the other thing is sometimes music has the opposite effect. We can get into ourselves, and we have to be very careful about that, because if we find a song that's, oh, poor pitiful me, and we're in that song, we've got to change out of that, especially in a business sense, right? Yeah. Because we can add to that with our chatter in our head. So I'm glad you brought that the music is to help get out of where you need to be rather than drawing it in to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, some songs, I mean, there's some songs that take me back. I mean, I can go back to certain things. I mean, just in 7 seconds, I'm just back in that. In that mindset might not be the healthiest mindset to be back in that territory. But then there's some that are just have always been my go-to, like, yeah, let's get going. And so yeah, that's music is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I'd love for you to share, like, what has been one of your favorite client experiences of helping them evolve and create their playlist and the impact it had on them and their organization. Like, tell us about that, because one of the things I want you to be able to do is for anybody watching now or listening later to see and hear how you can support Paula in her business. We are caregiver entrepreneurs that are caregiving, and this is how we build and help each other. We lift as we climb, and I want you guys to think consciously, how can you impact someone who is doing good so that she can continue to do good in her life, that she continue to do and make impact in her business. So tell us about one of your favorite client experiences.
One of my, it was just over a year ago, and I have to tell you, I interviewed all the participants. There were 9 participants, and they all gave me their favorite songs. So we curated a playlist before the event, right? And it's interesting to hear what some of those songs were. And then I added a song of kind of the theme to what the event would be after listening to everybody. And it was a leadership. It was for next generation leaders, those who were that were high potential, ready to go into leadership, and but hadn't had the skill set yet. So we looked at some things. We did a lot of work on balancing behaviors. But the music part of it was that at the end of the session, we went around and we changed the playlist to being more impactful, more motivating. And that wasn't my doing. That was their doing. And I have to tell you that within 6 months, 6 of those high potential leaders were promoted into management.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Okay, people. Now that is, you talk about ROI. That was just a mic drop ROI moment. Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot that went on in between, but if we're just speaking about the music, having that beginning curated playlist of what they thought their music was to what it ended up to be was a massive shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that story involves your ability to help them or guide them to change. Right. And because we find as people, especially as entrepreneurs out here helping our clients, the most successful clients that pretty much anyone will ever experience is the ones who are changing on, like, you're guiding them in, but they're actually engaging and incorporating the changes on their own, because that means when you depart from them, they will continue. You got to shove it down their throat with a fire hose. I promise you, when you walk away, they will pull out that fire hose and go pick up a whiskey bottle.
That's right.
Like, I'm done with you.
Oh, I think it's what they talk about, being the guide rather than the hero.
Yes.
Right. And that's what these workshops are about. I'm to guide, not shove it down.
Yeah.
Here.
That was one of my coaches. I'll never forget her saying, because I was in a group mastermind years ago, and she always reminded us, I am the guide, not the ride.
Yeah. I like that.
I will leave you stranded by the road if you don't start walking.
That's great.
That needs to go in your book.
So this is if you have a voice in your head for something, this is the voice of book for Meshell. Everybody, so when the book comes out, you will see a dedication to Paula in it, because she is relentless in her support of my vision. She's speaking life. And that's, again, when we think about this community, that is exactly how we get to being, overwhelmed. Like it literally does create at some point a sense of overwhelm. And when you have a vision for something greater, when you have a purpose and a passion, you can somehow get out of it. And what I found is people who have community and support and places you can have conversations, they get out faster than when you do it on your own. So on that light, I really want to ask you about caregiving. What made you decide to take that on in light of all the other things all the other plates you had spinning? What made you want to add another spinning plate to all the other spinning plates?
Well, interestingly enough, and I haven't really talked about this much, so this may even be a little new to you, but I don't think so.
New news. I love it.
My husband and I started caregiving when my grandmother fell back in 2006.
Ooh.
And she was 95 years old and had brain surgery. So we said we didn't want her going back to her home. We have an office on the first floor that will transform into a bedroom. So we brought her in, and that's when it started. I have to tell you that 1 year with my grandmother was probably the most fulfilling year for me as a human being, because I learned all her stories of coming over from Europe, from Macedonia here, and how all that happened in her broken English. And she's lived with us for a year before she passed on. But I have to tell you that was one of the most incredible experiences that I have. What made me decide to do it was just the love.
Absolutely.
Then
Lisa,
then a year after that, my dad was going in for a simple surgery that did not go very well. And so he was in the hospital for over 6 months. And so we decided to sell my parents' house and move both my dad and my mom in with us. And so he passed away 10 years ago, and my mom has been with us ever since. And I have to tell you that, the experience has been wonderful, but you are absolutely right. There are a lot of spinning plates that add to it and throw balls to try to get you to knock them down that you don't know. So it's not as wonderful as it seems that love gets you here, but love does get you here. But there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that love is that navigating, that's the core of the current. What have you found to help you navigate when you've got your schedule set and then something happens? Are there things or tools that you've discovered that help you, communicate better with the doctors, or, just maintain your relationship with your husband? Is there, what are some things that you found to help you navigate that, those spinning plates?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, one of the things that is happening now is my mother is very lonely sitting outside, knowing that I'm just sitting outside in the family room, knowing that I'm just right in the next room, not understanding that I'm working, right? I mean, she understands. So we have decided, after many attempts to open the door and say, "Are you working?" to put up a sign and say, "On video, working right now. I'll be out in 10 minutes," whatever it takes to let her feel comfortable, to know she's not bothering me and I'll be there for her. Now, she knows that if there's an emergency, break in, do whatever she needs to do, right? The other thing that I have found with caregiving with the doctors is to get it set up online so that you get the results to your email.
Mm-hmm.
And you communicate with the doctor via email without them being right there. So, and then for my husband, we decided that we were going to work out together and build a whole basement room filled with with a treadmill, with a bicycle, and this and that. Well, that didn't work because we were still so tired. So we decided that we would go and work at a warehouse from 4 to 7:30, 3 days a week in the morning, travel together, earn some money, and come back. And that's kind of our time together. It's really kind of fun. It kind of makes you get up and go. And it also gives you time to have your coffee with your husband.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I really like, and that's one of the things that I'm consistently hearing the thread for caregivers, entrepreneurial caregivers. Oh my goodness, I can't even say my own term. Entrepreneurial caregivers to create a schedule. Like the schedule is going to be impacted consistently and constantly impacted. And you definitely won't do it if you don't have a schedule. That's the one thing I know to be true. I'll get to it later. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Something always comes up and will always come up. And you have a higher propensity and much more chances of success when you have a schedule and there's something that's meaningful and matters to you. It's amazing how you all of a sudden find a way to make it happen.
Exactly. And I will tell you, for my husband and I, we are so different. He's a morning person. I'm an evening person, late night. So us to go at 4 a.m, I had to have some sort of bonus. And that bonus was another income stream.
Yeah, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. So, well, I want to recognize your time. We end at 30 after or 15 after. Yes. So just to be aware, I really want anyone listening, what would you share with someone if they were getting ready to, they were, talking to family members like, oh, I got this situation, and or they had just said yes to it. So the person that they're caregiving just come in, they haven't been there long, like the spinning plates are now dropping.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens in the beginning.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, they don't keep spinning. Big secret. Right? They start dropping, and then based off of who you are, or based off of what Paula's going to share with us, this is how you get them to start spinning again. What would you share with someone?
Well, the first thing that I would share with someone is you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to rest. I'm going to be very vulnerable with your group here.
Yeah.
There was a time that I didn't have time to exercise. I didn't have the time, and those things got put off on the side. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't exercising. So I went to the doctor because I was gaining weight, and he had put me on a weight loss medicine. And it literally put me into seizures. So when I say take care of yourself, because it's the airline. Put on your mask first, then take care of your kids or your elderly parents. We are in the sandwich generation right now, where we've got some have kids, some have parents. And, my husband and I had both living in our house. You still have to find the time to exercise and take care of yourself. And if you don't find that time, you're never going to pick up those plates. You may pick them up, but they're not going to be spinning. So my one thing is to take care of yourself. Don't rely on anybody else to take care of you at this point in your life. And understand that you need rest too.
Yeah. And then so when you discovered that, and thank you for your vulnerability. Let me just say that, because that's like, again, people need to hear that it's not perfect. It is difficult. It is going to be one of the hardest things you've ever done, and it's still doable.
Yes.
Right. So this helps normalize the story and the chatter in the head of anybody listening who's in this role and have not been able to have an open, authentic conversation. That's what we're giving you here. So I'm really grateful for that level of authenticity. What were some of the first things you did? So recognizing that the weight loss pill is not going to work, and self-care is absolutely necessary. What were some of the first things that you did?
One of the first things that I did was I took Sunday for myself. My husband took Saturday for himself. Now that kind of put us on different schedules, but it was important for us to be able to have where he ended the week and got to do what he wanted to do, whether it was the lawn, whether it was resting, whether it was watching a movie. And then for me, before I started my week, is taking a day, if possible. Now, if you are a single person, you can't necessarily do that. However, there are resources out there that can help you. And I know that Meshell's working on some of those resources and guiding them, because that's what this whole community is about, is being there for one another. But taking a day to do whatever you love to do. And for me, I'm going to be honest, I stayed in bed all day and watched movies I could catch up on that everybody was talking about. And I remember Mamie Eisenhower always said, you've got to take one day a month and just stay in bed and eat bonbons,
Just like, she did not just say Mamie Eisenhower.
Yes, I did.
Yes, and it is important. And I have done, like, I love that Netflix has limited series.
Yes.
Right. So on that one day a month, which is probably what it's been equating to, where I'm just like tuning out everything. I literally just watch that, 5 or 6 episode thing, from beginning to end. And then I go on with my week, my Monday, and I'm rested and I'm restored. I'm relaxed. And but when I first got here, like many caregivers, I didn't know to do that. I literally felt like I was falling apart little bit by little. The snapping was getting bigger. It felt like clouds were following me everywhere I went. Nothing was working. My favorite word was unfair.
Yeah.
Not even a word that I like or use, but I started to put that in rotation, right? So I get it.
I had a boss that said, fair is for popcorn and rides.
That's great. I love that. And it's very true. Very true. So, well, as we are wrapping this up, is there anything else you'd like to share? Any insight or a piece of wisdom that just came through as we were talking, that anybody listening that is in the crux of it, they're, knee deep in it or neck deep in it. Is there anything you'd like to impart?
Yes. So that's a great question. And there are different stages of caregiving, right? There's caregiving when someone's living with you and you're helping them through, just being there and being with them, right? Then there's the stage of they can't drive anymore. They can't get around. Maybe their hearing's going, and I'm talking about elderly, right? Then there's the stage where all the doctors come in and things are happening and you're watching your loved one decline. And
Mhm.
then there's the final stage. And if you can remember at each stage, it's a different season for that loved one. And your compassion needs to strengthen along that continuum. And it will be harder and harder, and your time will get less and less. But if you don't, there is a chance that there will be regret in the end. And so I'm trying to get the word out there that as the seasons progress, and you will watch them, and when you get to that season, it's just, what compassion moment do I need to be in? What song do I need to be in? What rhythm do I need to be in to help this person so that we can have harmony in the end? Like how I threw that music in.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't even think all of a sudden. Lisa, was there anything that you wanted to, inquire or ask before? Because we were at that time.
Yeah. No, Paula, I love the way you said that, because I've always said it's seasons of caregiving, and there's different needs for different seasons. And sometimes it's chosen for you, and sometimes you're just the only one that's, and there's still a choice in that too. But it's in through my parents and through my aunt, through a lot of people living with dementia in my family, is like I kept having to ask myself, what is the most loving thing I can do at this moment? What's the most loving thing that needs to be done? And sometimes there's some really tough calls to make, but it's what's the most loving thing for my loved one, for myself, for my relationships. But it is, and it's like, it's different stages. My brother's recovering from a stroke, and where he is now and from where he was 2 months ago, it's really different. And my mindset of what he can do and what needs to be done is different. And it's great because there's progress. And so, but it is to be aware of not comparing, like, well, it was always like this, so it's always going to be this way.
No.
Be
Or
really present in the moment.
Or that somebody else's journey is going to be your journey.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, very unique and individual journeys. Like that's why it's so imperative that when you're listening to someone, they're never going to tell you exactly what to do. It's on you to actually glean from that experience a way, as Lisa mentioned, a way to make a better decision, right? Because otherwise, if you follow some roadmap, you're going to end up so lost, so in the weeds, so off course that there's no plate spinning at that point. So
yeah, because there isn't a roadmap.
No, there isn't. So well, I want to thank you, honor your time. I have put in the communication that they can contact you at paulaswhite.com. Was there any thing else you wanted them to know before we wrap up? And we're just so grateful for your story, your insights, your joy amidst the circumstances. And that's one of the things we want people to see. You can find joy. It does take a little work. It does take some support. It does take some conversations, and it's absolutely doable. Anything you wanted to share?
I just wanted to thank both of you and honor you, my friend, for putting this together. You have been there for me when I've had to vent a little bit, and I honor and thank you for that. And just the whole idea of having somebody to talk to is amazing. So thank you for putting this community together. If anyone wants to DM me on LinkedIn, they can do that too. So I'm here as a resource for this community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being our guest. I'm going to send you back to the back room. And how do I do that? There we go. And then Lisa and I will be back shortly with our next guest at 30 after. So roughly 11 minutes, Lisa. So I'll see you 11 minutes. I'll see you.
Okay. See you soon.
All right. Remove. And you're watching me pull up the next slide. You know, the most fun I've had with this today is the massive level of uncomfort that I've actually been dealing with, because this is the first time I've used StreamYard, but I am making it work because this is a passion project. And you've never heard me say it before. Find the thing you love and it will trump all that fear, doubting, second guessing, that doubting, the naysayers, the critic, because it's something that's so meaningful for you. You're going to find a way to make it work. And that's what I've been doing all day. So I'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Well, hello.
Well, hello there. And
How are you?
our co-host will join us shortly. She needed to step away and have a conversation. So I love that you did that.
I was gonna say, do you see?
Yeah, I see both the logos. I love that you did that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I was like, oh well, let's see if I can add on to this. And I
Yeah,
came on early because I think the size of the backgrounds on here versus Zoom is different, and so I
and
was messing
very.
around with that.
I'll say honestly before we get started, the learning curve for this, man, like I was yesterday, and there she is. She's coming in now. Yesterday, hey Lisa, she's
Hey
joining.
there.
I was like trying to figure. I would look, and so I don't even like the word trying. I was working arduously to see what I could do in a short amount of time that would make this doable.
That's awesome.
Instead of attempting to do everything, I just said, what is the what are the necessary components, and do that. So I get you.
You totally have the skill. The last couple of weeks that I've gotten to know you, the one thing I love about you is how astute you are at like really creating a process and driving through with that. I'm just so amazed. Like I'm gonna reach out to you as a resource for that, just so you know.
I'm here. So let's get started. Let me go ahead and read your bio. One, I want to say thank you to the C.U.R.E. Community Chronicles. We are very excited to have your story that will impart excellence and elevate another entrepreneurial caregiver who may be isolated and hear this story and feel better about where they are and be able to move forward in it, as well as we want to bring awareness to the work you do in the world, right? As being in this role as we all are on this today on this platform, is that we don't often have enough time in the day to all do demand generation, right? We have these amazing passion projects and purposes and callings and businesses, and we don't often have time to get out there and tell people about it because we're also in the midst of caregiving. So I want to make certain that both of those are covered in today's interview. So having said that, I'm going to start with your bio, and then we'll go ahead into our questions. So Prashant, see, and I'm like, excuse me, I have a little thing that's coming back. Prashant, I'm just going to say your first name. Prashant is an Austin-based entrepreneur who founded My Org Works in 2010, providing technology services to growing marketing agencies and nonprofit organizations. He recently created Cooperation Engine, a platform for communities to safely ask for and offer each other help. I just like, you guys are going to be so excited when you hear about this. The platform aims to fill the gap for people who may not have adequate resources to receive care from their trusted communities. The Cooperation Engine will launch in Q1 2023. So we are right there at the crust of it. So thank you, Prashant, for being here. Was there anything that I did not cover in your intro that you'd like to bring to light before we get started?
No, you got that really, really well.
Okay. Yeah, well,
the only thing I think we didn't add in there is all of my businesses have started as a side effect of becoming a caregiver. So
Wow.
Okay, so this is going to be a really good conversation for people to see. He said all, y'all heard him say all of my businesses, right? So we are completely capable of generating and creating success even amidst these circumstances. So let's talk about the business that you want to spotlight today, the one I know you have a logo for, and then you can bring in it if you want to list all the other things that you've done or doing as well. But let's talk about the one you're spotlighting today.
Yeah, so Cooperation Engine is a platform that I started building. It's an app that I started building in 2020, right when the pandemic hit, and we saw people lined up, around the food banks and different care centers that opened up where anybody that was suddenly without a resource could actually get help. I think the side effect of the pandemic was it actually allowed everybody to connect with their heart and be generous in a way that we've not been before. So against the backdrop of the divisiveness and all the other conversations, really the beauty was people actually showed up for each other. Whether it was through Facebook groups where people could ask for help, or churches or nonprofits, whether there were unhomed people under the bridge, people really showed up for each other. And we recognized that that wasn't enough. There was still a lot of people who could not navigate all of the different help platforms that are available. And we heard about how systems aren't working for everybody. And so Cooperation Engine was my response to all of those gaps that we started seeing, saying, hey, there are systems in place. We aren't going to replace them. There are people who want to help. There are businesses who want to help, and there are people who need help. So what if we could connect all of these together? So the person who needs help, you know, oftentimes I need help. And, needing help could be like, hey, I'm just too damn tired to get my own food today, excuse my language. Um, and I have friends and family that help show up for that, right? Like, hey, we got you covered. And sometimes I don't even feel like doing that. And then there are things, for example, I'm dealing with dad. Like my dad, has needed, care time to time. And then in 2021, he had a stroke, and, it kind of just elevated everything that was needed from me. And then, he's been sick a few times since then. And every time that happens, it comes to me to be there with him. And so, we have a large community of people from the temple that we go to, and the Indian communities and the senior communities that people could actually offer, and they would love to help my father out. Except when it's that time, I don't know who I'm going to reach out to. So if I had a community, say, the temple that I go to, or my neighborhood, or the seniors that support my father, and say, hey, my dad needs help with X and I can't take care of it today, I'm sure 20 people would show up. But that opportunity is missed. And at the same time, I love to cook, and oftentimes we have so much food and we give it to our neighbors or our friends. But if I knew somebody needed a meal, that'd be so easy. If I knew who it was, I could just get it to them.
Yes.
Right? So all of these are missed opportunities to contribute. And then we have this growing conversation of people being alone and disconnected in this virtual environment. I'm like, what if we made contribution seamless from the communities that we trust? Right? So like a few years ago, if you had to ask for a ride from a stranger with a car, we would all be terrified. But now there are companies that let you, order a cab, if you will, or, a private car that take you from point A to point B. And it's completely safe. And it's not a taxi driver who's driving, it's a private car owner. So, the same kind of fear drives us in asking help. Like if I ask for help, what will our communities think? What will people say about us? The shame, blame, and guilt of it all is so high that you don't want to ask for help. What if we made asking for help safe? And so the app is designed to just do that, just like, any of the rideshare companies. They don't show who you are. They just say, hey, you want to go from point A to point B, and the driver picks you up. So our app does the same thing. You just, put a flag up saying, hey, I need help with X. Your name is never shown. So unlike being on Facebook or other apps where your name does get shown,
Yes.
you don't want to ask for that. You can now say, hey, and then members of the community can respond to that. And then further, if there are nonprofits or government agencies that can help, they can look at the request and they can say, why is this thing aging? So we can also see systematically, where is it that somebody who asked for help didn't get the help that they needed? So that the agents can respond, and then the nonprofits can respond, and private people like you and I can respond, and businesses can respond. And at the end of the day, we give, saying, here's, here are the outcomes that these communities are producing. So you can see as a community, are you effective in taking care of your people?
Yeah. One of the things that popped in my head was, there's so much waste that transpires because, as you said, there's nowhere to contribute. So people don't know what to do with it. They just waste it. They waste the effort. They waste the food. They waste the resources because it spoils, or they just don't have the ability of, in a timely manner to be able to give to someone, and creating that and making that the norm. Right. It would just be powerful to, like, Lisa, make asking for help normal, or make giving help normal.
Right.
Because oftentimes when you give help, you're like, oh, the people who are like, oh, that person's only helping because they want to be seen or heard, or blah, 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 all the other stuff, right? versus like, hey, like offering help is just part of what I do because it makes me feel really good. It's really simple, right? Like you feel so good when you've helped, like not just a friend or somebody, but like I just helped somebody, I gave them a ride from here to there for the doctor's appointment. I don't even know them, but something that's critical for them got taken care of, and it didn't put me out in any which way.
Yeah, you're reminding me of a speaker. I don't know if it was a TEDx or a talk or article I read, and so don't quote me on it. And I never forgot the fact that giving, which is helping by another term, it actually engages three like it's dopamine, endorphins, like I can't neurons, right? It actually engages three at the same time, and it's powerful.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a powerful elixir to help with your mental state. Right. The challenge is, like, as the article went on, one of the things they highlighted was the altruistic giving. And that's the challenge. Most of society is not altruistically giving, so they're not nearly benefiting from what it can do for you biologically to be a giver when you altruistically give. So I love that you're creating something that is, people could literally get addicted to. Whoa, how cool
I'm
would that
hoping
be?
it does, because when we see, what the Children's Miracle Network does, or the Make a Wish Foundation does, and there are these foundations that make people's dreams come true, and I'm like, do I have to be destitute and dying to actually have something nice happen to me?
Hello, right?
Right? Like, what if just the average person or the non-average person, we all want something nice to happen to us. Just the random act of kindness, the random act of generosity. And so that's what we want to capture and bring to life, saying, the random act of generosity does as much for you, if not more, than it does for the person receiving it. And if in that you just altered somebody's day, single mother with 4 kids who's struggling, like if you just took care of a grocery bill for her,
Yeah,
so easy.
exactly. So, talking about, and I think you covered the next question was like, what brings you joy and who would your ideal, like as you get ready to launch, who are your ideal partners in this, right? So this can spread fast, right? Because the goal is to get it in the hands of, people who can help you get the word out fast, and you could get more users on the site and participating in it, because that's how it'll grow. Who would be your ideal connections or users, so anybody watching this can maybe reach out to Prashant and make those connections, because that's what we're about, is creating a community that we lift and elevate, support, and inspire as we are doing dual roles of being entrepreneurs and caregivers. So who would be your ideal connection?
So right now, I'm looking for larger nonprofits that have more demand than they can cater to. And, large, not as in like millions of people, it could be that, but it could also be like, hey, the neighborhood church or the neighborhood temple or the neighborhood community, the PTA. One of my friends educated me that there is a PTA organization in Austin that was started to really just take care of the families and the kids that come to school, but they don't have enough, right? And they get meals from school on the weekdays, but what about the weekends? The PTA organized, that those kids that need that would also have meals on the weekends, right? Something as simple as that. So and they're finding that there are more kids in that boat than they knew about. So that's what I mean by an organization. It could be a small school, it could be a neighborhood, it could be, really just anybody that has people that want to serve. It could be, it could be any of the giant technology corporations, because everybody there makes enough income that they could serve somebody easily. They could take care of somebody, or organizations that can provide people with need, or just anybody that can just wants to feel good for a day, or they're like, I need help. Either of those, really. So, yeah. People with a heart and a heartbeat.
People with a heart. Yeah, you see, I got the heart behind me, right? Because
And the
I
heartbeat.
find that people who are in these roles like yourself, I mean, you mentioned earlier, you've, almost built every business you've had based off of the fact that you wanted to be have accessibility to be a caregiver.
Yeah.
And that's a whole new way of thinking, right? Like, I am going to create a life that allows me to be of service to those people who I know and love and need, and I know love and they need me.
Yes, absolutely. I
So
mean,
it's,
if I
go
could
ahead.
do that all day, that would be my dream come true. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has it, I mean, and even I'll say, you know, for anyone listening, that's a high aspiration to intentionally do it that way. And what I want you to share is, how has it been? Because even with that intention, there's still, you cannot prepare for what's going to happen. There's no preparation for, like, all the twists and turns, or what someone calls the plot twist,
Mhm.
that are going to happen when you say yes to a caregiving role.
Yes. So when I actually didn't know I had said yes to being a caregiver, I just became one. Right.
Mhm.
Like, it wasn't like I made an active choice or even decision about it. What had happened was, I moved to Austin. My parents moved here a little bit later. And then my father got sick. He had some heart disease that happened with his aging. And with that, I knew he's going to have a lot of doctor visits and things like that. And he couldn't drive himself everywhere because he had just moved here. He doesn't know how to get from point A to point B. And so when I got laid off in 2001, the big recession layoffs that happened in the tech industry, I had the choice of either taking a job which was similar to what I had been doing, which is travel 5 days a week as a technology consultant. And I couldn't do that because that would leave my dad out on his own. And that wasn't a great option. And this is the days before Uber or Lyft or any of that, right? So we didn't really have any of those abilities that at least now would work differently. And so I started a business with a college roommate of mine. I was like, hey, let's try this out. And so that I could be at home. I wouldn't have to even leave the house as much as possible. And that was how that started.
Yeah. Kudos to you, because that is, you know, similar to, yeah, I was in a, you know, similar situation. And instead of, you know, leaving a travel job that was 80% of the time, that just was, I mean, like, my mental state was being shredded. So I gave notice, and then instead of going and looking for another job, I was blessed to be invited to a networking event for women, eWomen Network, as a matter of fact. And the speaker, Patty DiNucci was her name. She talked about the difference between goals and a vision. And that's the one thing I've come to realize, is the people who seem to be traversing this space the best are out of the goals, because the goal is a plan, right?
Yeah.
Right. And there's no plan that can prepare you. And you rarely stick to the plan, right? What you have is an overall sight of how you are going to handle things, where you want to go, and you're able to keep moving forward even in the midst of the things.
Yes, absolutely. Goals are in service of the vision. Without the vision, the goals are, it's just hurting kids on a good day. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'd love for you to share, like, an example. Like you said, you have how many businesses do you have? Let me ask that. Let me back up a little bit and say, how many businesses do you have?
Well, I
that
have
are active that you run.
I have my OrgWorks, which is my web design mobile application development business, which is what I do on a day-to-day basis for marketing agencies that are growing. And so, one of my passions is to help people grow. And so, it's like, even how do I help businesses grow? Because I am constantly wanting that help for myself. And so one of the things that I'm really good at is technology and connecting with people. So there are agencies that I know 3 to 5 people that are growing that don't quite have the ability to yet hire in-house resources or do their own stuff offshore. That I'm a great fit. Like, hey, I'll be a partner. You tell me what you want and we deliver it. And we deliver it on time and on cost and on time. And we save companies a lot of money. And then the other thing I also do is help startups, like, entrepreneurs that, hey, we need a website, we need to figure out what we want to do. I will actually sit there and help them, turn their vision to goals and plans. And that becomes part of what I just love helping people do. And from my org works, actually, Cooperation Engine, like I said, I'm starting to launch the platform. I've been building that for about 2 years. So that will be a business, as much as, I do not want to be a non-for-profit on that, because what I really want is to be able to create the resources that can help more people.
Yeah.
So that's my vehicle for that. And then I also help, like I said, I've helped a few startups along the journey. So I get to be part of their journeys. One of them is called Veteran Heroes, which is a service that we're creating for veterans so that they can be rehired, retrained to work in civil. A lot of veterans we find, they don't adapt into this, into the civilian life once they have completed their service. So how do we actually take them and have them be hireable into the corporate world, as well as their spouses who are traveling with them, so they never actually have a fixed place. At the end of the day, like, because they're moving so much, employers don't like that. So how do we make it evident that this is how people that are serving a country, like, this is what the trajectory looks like, to educate the corporation so they know how to hire people appropriately. So that's one of the other things that I got into with the startup founder, who's now a dear friend. And then there are a couple other things that I got involved with along the way. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's never been like, oh, I'm gonna go do this. Like, oh, here it comes. Okay, I'm just gonna get on that horse and ride it. So
Yeah. Well, one of the things I want to say is hats off to you, because anybody listening, is the first thought is just like, oh my God, that's a lot, right? And one of the things I want to say is that in order to do anything like that, you first have to have, as we talked about, the vision. It must be something in your mind that says, I don't know how, and I know I will. And what I want to ask is for people listening who have one business, right? And they are like just underwater, right? Submerged in the caregiving, the doctor's bills, the visits, the daily living activities. They're submerged and they can't see a way out, which you clearly found your way out. What are some of the things that you do on a regular, daily, or just regular basis so that you can keep your sight on the vision and see past anything that may be happening or has happened, unplanned, unexpected? Because that's what really throws people off most often, I find. It's the unplanned, the unexpected, the inconvenience, the things that make them uncomfortable. They get frustrated and it's a spiral. So how do you keep your head above water and see your sight so you're able to be impactful in the world and the work you do?
that's a very tricky question, because you're assuming that I keep my head above water and don't get distracted with all the things.
See, folks, that's
You gotta
it.
snorkel. You gotta
Right.
snorkel.
I'm like a minion that goes, ooh, shiny every 3 seconds. So,
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
but
That's so good.
of all the things that I try, what seems to stick, and again, it's like I get chosen. I don't choose what I take on, because I just say yes to everything. Like, that's my biggest strength and biggest drawback, right? Like, it's a drawback because sometimes I will overcome it very easily, and then I have to apologize profusely after that. I think it's always keeping in sight that the relationships are what matter, and making sure that, regardless of how much I bungle up, and I bungle up quite a bit, and I'm very honest about this, but I always make sure that the relationship is valued, and I always deliver what I said that I would deliver,
Yeah.
whether it's in personal life or it's in professional life. And if it's not on time, I'll let them know what happened, right? Like, and I'm very transparent about that. Anybody that gets to know me will learn that if you ask me a question, be ready for an answer. If you don't want the answer, don't ask me. I'm very, very transparent that way. I think that's probably the single thing that keeps things going, and that keeps, it allows people to show up for me when I don't do my best. Is, they recognize that I was doing the best that I could at that time, and there's room for growth, there's room for recovery, and it's never over until it's over.
Exactly. I love that. It's never over till it's over. And I love that you said relationships always matter and are valued. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's about the people, right? We've had guests on all day, and one of the common threads I see, and like why it's so wonderful for me to be spotlighting people in this work is because your heart gleams through, and how everyone, and Lisa she's shaking her head, everyone that's gotten on their heart, right? Because they love their business, they love the people they're caring for. And I'm like, who better to do business with than someone who loves what they do?
Yeah.
And has all this love emanating. So anybody listening to this, if Prashant has piqued your interest, connect with him. You know, I put his LinkedIn in there, and I'll put the other information that he's putting there too. But link with him. This is how you actually change the world, is by helping people who are making an impact in the world, their businesses to grow and thrive. So I just want to say thank you. And I feel like I have been keeping you all to myself. So
I love that you're doing this. Like, you're really, until I saw your logo on Facebook and reached out to you.
Yes, that's how he saw my logo. Yep. I was doing a logo vote is what I was doing then.
Right. And I actually didn't even think that caregiving was like, this whole view I've had for caregivers, has been very recently formed. Otherwise, it's just been, part of life. Like, oh, that's just what is expected by, and only recently have I started noticing that not everybody says yes to that. There are people who actually don't, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't even realize that's a choice. So
that's how I am with my sister. I'm like, it's my sister, right? Like when I left corporate, I had an incredible successful job, and I left corporate to step in as a caregiver, and they were like, oh my God, but you just got that amazing job, and you got a 6-figure base salary, and you got this 10-state like you're traveling out, like, and I'm like, it's my sister. Like that was the only thing I could respond and say, because it didn't make sense to me to not say yes. That's a human being. That's a job. That's money. That's a human being. And that's why I'm telling people, working with people who have this level of passion in their life, the transformation in your business while you're hiring and bringing them on board will be phenomenally incredible, because anything we do, and I'm incorporating all of us who've been interviewed today, and Lisa and myself in this conversation as well, we are amazing at what we do, and we emanate from love in everything we do.
100%.
And that's the thing too, is that it's a choice, and I always say sometimes it chooses you, and ultimately you do have a say in it. Sort of, it depends on your expectations from your family or whatever. And some seasons are longer than others. It's just different timelines. But I was just curious of how do you? I mean, you have so many different opportunities with work and with that passion and your purpose. How do you navigate that? And because to me, what I'm hearing is for you, it's very fluid, that you're able to, I perceive that you're very able to navigate. For me, I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm siloing some things, but how do you navigate that flow when a situation comes up and you already had your day planned with whatever meetings or whatever you're doing, and it's a caregiving situation arises? So do you just delegate that out to your community, or how do you navigate that time?
That's learning through accidents. A lot of it has been accidental learning, and then a lot of it also has been personal growth and development. Like I think it was in 2005 or 6 that I probably picked up my first personal growth book. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich, and then there's called The Richest Man in Babylon, and then other books that kept growing from there, right? Like I like the books small because my attention span is about 2.5 hours on a good day if I can keep it. 25 seconds really, if I have to be honest. But from there, one of the things that happened is I got invited to a seminar, and I was like, what? And I ended up paying money that I had no idea that I had because I put on a credit card to take this series of 7 classes on financial education, growing my business, marketing, and the road to being a warrior. And I was like, what? But I discovered the whole industry of personal development, and then one of my friends introduced me to Landmark, and then other things have come along the way. And it's been that investing in myself, I think that's been the biggest source for me going, because there have been so many times that I've stopped. I've wanted to jump ship. I wanted to more than jump ship. I just wanted to quit and turn around and never look back. And I think it's just, when you have the community, those kind of people that are progressing, and you see that humanity is, everybody's just bungling up their own way, because we don't really have a formula. We see people, let's see, success. Like everything I say looks really good, but if you look at my life, there's so many dumpster fires in there, man. I can't even begin to tell you, right? But you just kind of figure it out. The flow is an illusion. Balance is an illusion. What I come to is there are, intentional trade-offs or unintentional trade-offs. And generally, if I'm starting to move more towards intentional trade-offs, like, oh, this is what it's going to cost me to do this. And I think part of just growing up has been like navigating that. Which part of my balance am I going to give up? But I'm going to give up my workout for the next week, because that's the first one to go. I love eating and I hate working out. So that's the first thing that goes. And I love eating sugar. So it's just, it's just one of those things that's just, it's against me, and I'm just going to go with it at this point in time. And then it's like, okay, what else? Which ball do I want to drop? Right? We talk about spinning plates, but it's like you're actually spinning balls, and some of them are rubber balls, and some of them are glass balls, right? So you can drop the rubber ones, and I've dropped a few glass balls, and it shatters, and then you have to clean up, and that's no fun. But then you just figure out which one's the rubber one that I can drop, and you drop that, let it bounce around, and you manage the glass ones. And then you can see, can I put any of these down? And you put them down. Occasionally you'll drop a glass one. So what? It's not over till it's over. So
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
It's not a very
great
specific response. I'm sorry, but that's just, it's like that. I figured there's no formulas in life, right? There are really, you just invent it, you make it up as you go.
Yep.
And really the power is recognizing that everybody's making it up. So what do you want to make up today?
I love that you said that everybody's making it up. So what do you want to make up today? And it's so true. And I want to honor your time. So before we go, I would just love to ask you, is there something you would share with someone, that is currently stepping into caregiving or deciding to caregive in this role? What would you share with them so that they could maybe get to the other side faster, or they could get out of their own way, so to speak? Because that's what you so eloquently shared with us, is that you found a way to get out of your own way and just keep moving through whatever comes your way, create the desired outcome, and just keep moving. So what would you share with someone in having that experience?
Create the biggest community you can. Create the biggest community you can of people who will be there to support you. And it may not even be like you don't need support. You can just say, hey, I'm up to this, I'm up to this, I'm up to this, and let people know what you're up to. Because when it comes time that you need somebody, then they're like, oh yeah, you told me you were doing this, so of course I'll help you. And when you're in crisis and you reach out to people, they had no idea what you were doing, then it just becomes like, how am I going to ask for help? Or, what will they say? Like all those questions of shame, blame, and guilt come right back. Versus if you've already been talking about it, then people already know what you're up to. They're more likely to show up. So, and then, plan for way more resources, both for entrepreneurship and for caregiving than you ever thought. if if you're starting out right now, like if I could do this all over again, it's like plan for way more resources, people, money, time. I don't know, whatever it is that you need to stock up on all of that, right? Like resilience, fun. Who are the people you're gonna have fun with? Who's gonna get you out of the house when you don't want to? Like just stock up on all those resources far more than you can, because you will need them.
I love that you're saying that, create the biggest community you can, because it ties back to your current passion project. Is that, well, if I stock up on these resources, then I'm gonna have, there's a high chance that I'm gonna have overage, right? And that goes directly to the cooperation engine, is that you have somewhere, you don't have to worry about the overflow, because we have somewhere for you to put the overflow that you're not using.
Is how cooperation engine
right?
is like, I need help, so does everybody else around me.
So, but yes,
The resources we have, so everybody's taken care of, because there's enough for everybody's needs. So let's have that happen.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's amazing. Again, want to honor your time, so we're going to wrap this up. Lisa, was there anything you wanted to say in closing? And quickly, I have shared some of your contact. Is there a preferred one I can pop in right now, so as we wrap up, someone can see it?
Texting me is probably the best thing to do.
Okay, so I'll show your text. There you go. Lisa, was there anything you wanted to share as we wrap up?
I'm highly intrigued with all that you're doing. So I'm curious about resources, that if you have resources in Arkansas, I want to tap in on that for you.
Let's connect after this for sure.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Give me a text, Lisa.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will connect you guys, so you guys can have a conversation. And I will point out, the thing that he did say was Landmark. So Landmark is powerful self-development that helps you get out of your way. It is the thing that, right, you, instead of seeing the circumstances that we talked about, you see to the other side, the vision of what you want to create, how you want it to be, how you're going to develop and work through it. So you can see most people are stuck in their situations because they're looking directly at the situation instead of the exit. Where's the exit to move somewhere? And Landmark is powerful at helping people learn it, master it, and live it.
I love how you created that. Yeah.
Thank you. So I am going to put you in, move you back into the studio room. And Lisa, we will be back on at 8 minutes. And I will see you, Prashant. I will see you, in the passing, and I'll make certain that you and Lisa are connected.
I look forward to it.
Pleasure.
Right. Thank you so much. Your share.
Lisa.
Loved your
Nice to meet you.
Boy, this is like a very weird time for Meshell as I put up the next slide. But I am doing this. Give me a second here. And we will see you at 3:15 for our final interview with the executive director of the C.U.R.E community, Lisa Hurst, and her and I will be having a conversation. So I will see you shortly. Okay.
Oh my gosh, my hair is all weird. It's the background is like fuzzing me out. So
Yeah, no worries. We are rounding the day, and what a day it has been. I want to just say thank you so much for being the co-host.
it's been great.
No,
I've loved it.
sitting in here. So I'm very excited to share with the audience that's been watching and the viewers who will be seeing this later about you. So just start with the C.U.R.E Community Chronicles. This is a platform that is spotlighting and highlighting people who are entrepreneurs, small business owners, freelancers, and solopreneurs who are also in the role of caregiving for a family member, a loved one, a friend, a neighbor. And so they have this duplicitousness or duplicity in their life where they have one hand, two hands, and they feel like sometimes they're being torn apart because they're doing their business endeavor of what they love while caregiving for someone they love. And we're here to unite that, because that means you embody love, and love is powerful and a gift to the world. So we come together as a community to support you and elevate you and help your business thrive and that caregiving role thrive as well. And having said that, I want to read your bio and introduce you, and then we'll get into more about you. So Lisa Hurst is a facilitator and a confidence coach with 23 years of experience in individual transformation. As Chief Creativity Officer of Improv to Grow, she specializes in helping clients fine-tune their messages for special audiences. Lisa is a certified practitioner with Applied Improvisation Network and Ageless Grace Educator, offering custom design seminars, creativity retreats, and mastermind coaching programs. She has worked with organizations such as Launch SA, Gigdom, and Alamo Area Council of Governments. Improv to Grow helps clients improve communication in all aspects of their lives. So, Lisa, was there anything that I left out that you wanted to highlight before we get started?
Other than I've got two beautiful cats that are around here. That's kind of fun my little fur babies that you might see pop in from time to time. But no, everything's good. So
awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So tell the viewers about your business.
So what I love to do, what my passion is to help people really connect with their internal, I guess, beingness, so that they can really communicate to the world who they really are in such a way that they are finding the yes in the opportunities, whether it's in relationships, whether it's work, and with using improv exercises that would prep you to go on stage to perform as a team. There's a lot of exercises that help you just communicate a lot clearer and much more specifically so that you get your point across, or you also are listening at a greater depth and level than most people do these days. So
nice. So and having said that, one of the things that we love to do is spotlight, your business, so that there's opportunities created for people to work with someone who is in the embodiment of love. Like, as I've said throughout the day, people who are passionate about their work as well as caregiving are incredible people to work with. So having said that, share with us what brings you joy in your business, maybe even an example of an experience with a favorite client.
Yeah. So I think it's, so many of my clients, whether I do it corporately or individual, smaller groups for individual growth, there's a couple of exercises that just the lights go on and everybody's just jazzed with it. And one of them is practicing using the phrase yes and yes and is one of the foundations of improv, and it's an acknowledgement and acceptance of what was offered. So it's not a judgment. There's no time to go like, oh, I don't think I like that. Because when you're on stage, everything, there's no props, there's no, wardrobe. You're creating, there's no script. You're creating everything in the moment. And what I found to be parallel is a lot of times in caregiving, there's not a lot of scripts. There's not a lot of structure sometimes. that is life-giving. And so it's like how to be in that moment to really yes and. So it's basically saying, well, I'm having this situation. How can I advocate on behalf of my loved one? How can I be in that space of finding the yes, even though this is just a ridiculous situation or challenge? How can I find the yes in it and be forward thinking of like, okay, this is today. How is this going to impact, in a couple of weeks? And for my immediate caregiving opportunity for my loved one, for my brother at this point, is I ask myself two questions. How is this helping or hindering his recovery? And it's just, that might be too black and white for people, but for me in my situation, it's like, how does this really help this? How does this hinder and detain recovery or prolong a situation that's unnecessary? So it's using that exercise for myself. I play in my mind. I'm like, yes and how can I yes and this? How can I do that? And the other part of this exercise is I also add in yes and, yes but, and yes because. So it's like starting a phrase using yes and, blah, 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 yes and. And then I go, yes, but, blah, 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 yes, but. And then I go, yes, because. And somewhere in the midst of that, I kind of, for the most part, find a solution or an opportunity that's going to serve and support, the care that my brother needs at this point. And so, so that activity goes well for small groups, big groups, and works well within with the voices within your head. So
yeah, well, I love that because I am a fan of the yes and I've all but eliminated but because to say I've all and eliminated but didn't even sound right in my head. Eliminated but for my conversation, and it's not an easy word. If you've been conditioned and you've been saying it for decades, it does not magically disappear. And the awareness of it is powerful because even when I hear myself say it, I can recorrect. In that moment, I can acknowledge and correct and state exactly what the meaning was to make the impact that I'm looking to with the words. Now, having said that, we talked about using that, yes and, yes but, and yes because. What is the takeaway, or what is the experience that your favorite clients or some of your most engaged audiences, how do they engage with that, and what is it they take away that they're actually able to apply later?
Right. So one of the groups I've been working with here in San Antonio revolves around dementia-friendly activities and groups. And as professional caregivers, there's just parameters that they have to deal with, and there's not a lot of time sometimes to be taking that extra moment and that extra beat to like really engage with the patients or with their clients. And so it's, go back to that exercises. We also do several storytelling exercises, and it just, having the mirroring of what they're saying and what they're hearing come back to them. There's this jolting, like, I didn't do that, or I didn't think I was doing that. And realizing, what does that look like? I say there's two parts of my programs, especially corporates, like personal, and then when you're working with everybody at work. And there's opportunity to learn from both. But they realize how they're stopping, or they're blocking. The yes but is a block. How they're blocking communication, help within their team, blocking, collaboration, coming up with new ideas, new ways to solve an issue, something real simple, that they had never really thought of. And at the core of all that I do is setting that place to be a really safe space to mess up, because improv is messy, and people will mess up, and to embrace that failure a different level. Now I know medically speaking, and I know as engineers and different professions, failure is not even an option, and that will have different repercussions. But to have that mindset is trying something out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, what did I learn from it? And if not with this particular group, maybe we tweak it a little bit and work with this other. And so, having that problem solving mindset, because of the communication is open to go, we're all on the same team. Our paychecks come from the same company. It's like, we whatever that company's goal and intention is, it's like, how can we, as a department, you come together and solve a situation or create something new that's really going to dynamically impact, their clientele. Is always super exciting to see that awareness, and that, along the times there's awareness and there's learning, but there's also like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. What their contribution is to the good and the bad and the indifferent of problem solving and collaborative, mindsets. So.
Yeah. So, and if I hear, for the people listening, and what you're hearing her discuss is like, yes, but the term "but" in itself cuts off everything else. What people don't realize is that as soon as you say "but," you have basically eliminated everything before the statement. And emotional impact of somebody who says "but" to you, like it takes people back, right? If you actually watch and observe in a group conversation, when people go no or when they go but, you shut the other person down. So the power of the yes and, it elevates a conversation, it elevates communication, and it's expansive so people can become more creative. So you haven't shut that person's emotion down. You haven't shut their mind and thinking down where they're focused on you having cut them off, right? So that means you become the target of their laser. If I could burn a hole through you with my eyes focused. And instead, you've engaged them in a creative, cooperative environment where you guys are generating solutions and outcomes together. And that's where the power of what she's just talked about. And that's why it's so incredible to have facilitators who can actually bring that to your organization and your teams. Because right now, what I find in conversations a lot of times is that people are so focused on being right that they forget that it's not about being right. It's about creating an outcome. And that outcome is going to generally be something that you didn't have before you came together. So there is no right. And that's what Lisa's basically spoken to, and what she did. So, yeah, I think that's incredible that you deliver that and create those environments and those, communication and collaborations within teams and organizations. So, and having said that, I just want to say, like, you also pointed to how that is actually useful skill in caregiving, right?
Yes, it truly is. And I can give you a perfect example of it. The majority of my improv training and performing is really basically down to listening. Is really listening and observing what's going on, and how do I respond or react. And so one of my favorite experiences was about 2012, was helping my aunt navigate her dementia. And she was a former nun and taught nursing and social work to pretty much the nurses that she was dealing with. And she had that break of like, oh, I'm trained, she was still training from the hospital bed, but she was yelling at the nurses and they were offended. And I would have to say, okay, this is her background. She's a social, she's used to training. She's used to being here, but not in the bed. And I had one nurse that was she was delightful. And my aunt would just go off and just say, well, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. And that nurse was able to yes and her without saying the phrase yes and. She was able to say, oh, she accepted what she said. She says, well, that's great. But she would say, sometimes she would be, but she goes, however, we would, we need to do X, Y, and Z to take care of stuff. And so she was really hungry. She goes, that's great. However, you need to take a bath before, before dinner. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And she's like, it's okay. I made some great chicken salad. Well, I like chicken salad. Still need to take the bath. And so she was just able to navigate that conversation with her and took the bath, ate the sandwich. And it made me realize, oh, if you're really listening, there's you have that choice of responding and reacting. And sometimes it's both, but some of it's much more productive than others. And I realized, I'm like, oh, as I'm talking to the professional, caregivers, how can I yes and what they're saying, or yes and that information, or respond in a way that's life-giving. And that changed everything for me when I started working with medical improv and working with nurses and caregivers in the assisted living communities, when they are trying to do all that they need to do, but they still need to interact in a loving way with their patients. And so it kind of just layers on there that how to check myself, like, oh, I really want to I don't want to react. Like, is that really going to serve the situation, or is it going to amplify it and shut everybody down? Or is there a healthy way I can choose to respond that is much more productive? So it's, with my aunt, and right now with my brother recovering from a stroke, there's just some things that I've had to learn, some new ways of responding. And a lot of it's the tone of my voice, breathing, not getting caught up in that energy of like, that tense. I just have to take a time out and just kind of, breathe and just let it, for me, just kind of go, okay, what really needs to happen? Is there a sequence of questions? Is there something that needs to happen first? Is there another phone call I need to make first? Then, to touch base again, to, have all the information to have that conversation so that it's an informed response as opposed to just like yelling at some person that is really designed to help you and help me navigate this. But I'm just like, I'm not always perfect at it. Have no doubt. I do. Some days are better than others, but it helps me take that time to go, oh, okay, yeah. This is a continuum. This is not the end all be all. This is a continuum, this phase, I used to be a youth minister. We used to say the stage of the age, like what stage of the age are we in now? And it's like, what season are we in, and what's required from myself, for, the medical staff, and as all that changes from month to month and the needs change, what's the basics, what's the best response, in that moment, and to be in that moment, not with that old voice going, that you just want to chew them out. It might feel good, but it's not really productive. So
yes. No, I mean, so I see, like, you're experiencing it, you're starting to move through it. As you said, it's not easy, and there's a choice to be made about how you are allowing the circumstances to impact you, and how you let the volume of that voice, either, that octave, go up and impede you, or, you turn it down so you can keep moving forward. And having said that, you shared some, and a bit about it, but was there anything that you wanted to highlight or point out about being both a caregiver and an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so that's been really hard. This last year, because I was prepping to launch a couple different programs and deliveries of monthly, scheduled meetings and whatnot, and realized there were some volatile situations going on that I really needed to, I might need to leave like in 30 minutes to go take care of things. And he's out of state. So it changed my perspective of like, what is work and how can I still work yet, navigate this time? So I just started writing. I started doing a lot of, blogs and, working on things, some published, some not, but generated content. So I'm like, I need that. I mean, who doesn't, for what I do in the workshops that I deliver, I had a lot of skeleton, some bones to some of the things I want to do, but I didn't really have the content for like a workbook. So I was able to work on that, and so that's going to help me even be able to be much more thorough in my launch. On a personal note, as I would come back, I would, unpack, get everything cleaned up and repack as soon as possible, because I just want to make sure that in my mind, that's all, my overnight kit's ready to go. I don't even have to think twice about it. That's not always the case and not so much now, but there was a time that it was really necessary to go up there a lot more. And then it's just, the other thing that's helped me the most is just having an exercise routine of being able to walk at least 30 minutes a day and just keep that. That just helps me maintain getting the gunk out. And I usually do a prayer walk, so I'm prayer/gripe walk. It's like, just trust that God's taking in all of my prayers to know how to fulfill His will in my life. But that having that outlet to really physically, walk and work out was a lifesaver. And along with that is, watching my diet too. So years ago, I got off of sugar and flour and everything, and that's hard to do that when you're out of town. But I figured out ways to maintain, for the most part, my diet that serves me and supports me. Because if not, then it's so draining anyway that if that's something I can control, then I will do my best to do that. And so, just being more organized around the house, not procrastinating on little paperwork, then, taking care of those little things. So then when I come home, I can just focus on, my clients and not have to go, oh, did I do that? I don't know. Just put it on auto pay, just those little things that doesn't take that long, but helps me maintain some kind of, okay, this is my new normal as I'm dealing with, as a caregiver, the new normal each month. And so those are a few things that I found to help me kind of maintain a balance between, and I don't even call it balance. I'm kind of trying to let go of the word balance. It's more harmony, because it's just, I can't say, oh, this morning I'm going to do this. And then there's something that happens that there's a phone call I have to deal with. And it throws me off energy wise. So then I'm just going to find harmony. I have 3 things I want to accomplish every day. And then if there's time for more, I will do more. But I've had to modify my expectations, still setting my goals, but still modifying to flow and have that harmony in between. So in the midst of, running, being a solopreneur and a caregiver, it's just been it's been a good learning experience, and of the technical stuff, but also learning to give myself grace in the midst of it. It's like every caregiving experience I've had between my mother, my father, my aunt, and now with my brother, it's all different. And I've learned tools to support, moving forward, but each one is different, and just to be open to those gifts that come along the way of learning, and just learning a deeper level of love. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you covered so much in there. Like, I mean, you even, you spoke to not just about about being a caregiver entrepreneur. You went right into our next question, which was like, how do you maintain, how have you discovered and found ways for your wellness? You spoke beautifully to that. And so anyone listening, again, what we're highlighting and spotlighting is not that this is a perfect path, not that there's a recipe, and instead that you would look to hear and discover for yourself what works for you, your willingness to make an attempt. I'm not a fan of the word try, but this is a great place to use it. Try things out until you see what works, and understand that just because it worked once doesn't mean it's going to work twice or again, because you are truly stepping into a realm that makes absolutely no sense. There's no rhyme or reason. It's not going to play by the rules. It's not going to be, there's no constancy that's going to happen ever in a caregiving role. And that doesn't happen either in business. You just have, kind of ensconced is the word that comes to mind, right? You've buried yourself in two realms that have no rhyme or reason for how or what will create success. Except the one thing I know to be true in both of them is that your mindset around how you are perceiving what's happening will turn your reality in your favor faster than anything else I've noticed to happen. So the question we want to ask is, for anybody listening, Lisa, what would you share with them is, if they're stepping into this role, they're newly in this role. I mean, they could even be buried in the role. What would you share with them as an opportunity or a way that could help them to start to see to see the light at the end of the tunnel, kind of, so to speak, to coin a phrase?
Right. So I think that's the thing that I've noticed is that for me, it's a season. It's different seasons. And some, with my father, it was a very quick season because he had a brain tumor. And so that was a very short season of caregiving. With my aunt, it was 4 years of Lewy body, Alzheimer's, and it was not fun. It was really hard. And it was devastating in many ways to see what happens. For right now is for me to see the light at the end of the tunnel is to really cherish the times that I have. And I get to spend, with my brother, and sometimes it's easier than others. We have some places we like to go and visit around, he likes to drive around his town and I drive him around. And there's just places we like to go see what's going on and see how the seasons have changed. And it's a little thing, but it's great. And sometimes initially he really couldn't walk very far, and now he's walking without a cane and he can go up and down the steps and everything's, it's great to see the change of mobility. And then, but for me, just to realize, like, I don't know where that level's going to be. I don't know what's going to be the ceiling of his recovery. I don't know what his recovery level is going to be. So to celebrate, as much as I can, to be present and let him, let us go do fun things and in the midst of all the other stuff that has to happen. But for me, it's just to go, I would never trade it for the world. I look back at last year thinking, golly, I kind of missed opportunities on some work. And at the same time going, I would have never chosen anything different because it's my brother. Just like you with your sister, it's like, I will always have those memories, those experiences, and that connection. And some visits are better than others. Some visits are just really hard and just different, and some are better than I could have ever imagined. So it's being open to where he's at and what he feels comfortable doing and participating in. But for me, it's just to be open to go, oh, okay, so this trip it's just going to be different, and that's okay, because there'll be another trip. And so in that season, and I'm very realistic of what could possibly be down the line, and again, celebrating every moment that we have together, and and cherishing that, because I feel like he would do, if he had the capability and the roles were switched, I have no doubt he would do the same, and I know, and I say this, and I know that everybody's family is different. I know that's not the case in everybody's family.
Right,
And that's another level of challenge and that people have. And, I was very close to my mother, very close to my aunt, and I was, had some reconciliation opportunities with my dad, thankfully, before he passed. But I know not everybody has that closeness in that relationship, and that makes all of this a lot more challenging. And so I recognize that, and as a community, we see how everybody's story in relationship with their loved ones and their siblings is really different, and to make the most of it and navigate that in a healthy way, to the best of your ability. And I feel like that's one thing I'm looking forward to within this community, is going, yeah, this is not everybody has our same experiences, and how can we still be there for each other and support each other and encourage each other in the midst of that is really, really critical for me, and looking forward to seeing how that's going to unfold within this community. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, I want to say thank you so much. I'm aware of, you have answered everything I wanted to ask. We've spotlighted, if there's anything else you want to spotlight about your business, or people getting to contact you, what you're looking for, that would be the one thing I would say would be a great opportunity to do right now. Because again, being that caregiver, that entrepreneurial caregiver, creating demand for your business is something that sometimes is one of the first things that goes to the wayside. Because if you have clients, you're in fulfillment and you're taking care of them, and then you're taking care of the person you're taking care of. And so going and generating new business opportunity, it seems like it's so in the distance. So we can get some, people to be aware of who you are, what you do, and know that when you work with someone who is this, filled with love and love for what they do, love for their loved one who they're caring for, you get a special kind of business person to work with. I mean, I have found that some of the people that I am, are my vendors or on my team, the best ones, honestly, are in those roles. And that's how this started to develop in my head, because my business started to transform because I started working with people who had that level of love, because they knew if I had this one client, I got to be the best at whoever I'm working with, because the referral is actually how I get the next business. Right. So, and it kind of helps me take care of business on its own. So it's a beautiful way to be about your business and do business. So if you wanted to share.
So that's what's great about. So one of the blessings I did have this last year, because we were so virtual, I literally did continue doing, work virtually. And now I'm getting more requests to do things in person. So that's exciting. But one of the things I do is having, workshops, and whether it's, in San Antonio or just, wherever at this point, where I use a lot of creativity exercises. So some improv, some basic art exploration, journaling, and, working on kind of getting the stuff out from within that's not serving you anymore, so that you can move forward freely into your life and finding that yes, that you can live, you can walk gracefully into that yes. And, within your immediate relationships and with your loved ones that, you're caring for. So on the link, Linktree has a lot of my different opportunities to work with me too. So I like to use that one as well, besides LinkedIn. And so just different things. I've got a questionnaire about art, and starting an weekly art Zoom program where we just work on little projects that we work together and just see whatever you're working on, and just a work in progress, and just demystifying what art is and that creativity and how that could be a good outlet for you as a self-care practice. So that's one of my new offerings this year. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, your information is there for anyone who is interested in contacting Lisa Hurst. Definitely reach out, have the conversation. I always tell people follow the thread of curiosity. It's the most powerful gift you can give yourself is to follow the thread of curiosity. And her phone number, she's listed that as well, and see what magic you could make. So we're going to end this conversation, and we're literally going to wrap up the day with this, and we will be back. So beginning, I believe it's, what did we say, March 3rd? So not next week, but the week in 2 weeks, we will be back, and we'll be having these weekly conversations. So we have more people coming in the community, and we want to share their gifts with you, as well as empower, inspire, and encourage you in that current caregiving role. There is nothing that's impossible when you believe. So we are here to fuse, fortify, and forge that belief in you that you can do both of these things that you love so much. Thank you for spending the day with us.
Yes.
Thank you for your comments. And I guess I should put my contact information in.
Yes, you should. This has been great.
And that's what a caregiver does, right? You're the last.
Care for everybody else, but you forget yourself.
I totally did forget myself. Right. So let's see. I'm trying to see, where do I show it? There we go. So there's my contact information. Shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to schedule or set something up so that especially if you're interested in becoming part of the community. We did post earlier today. I did put in some links to learn. We have a GoFundMe, because one of the things that's happening with this community is that there are some disparities and some challenges, and we want to be able to support people who are coming in the community should they be experiencing an emergency, so that we could be helpful to them as well. So we do have a GoFundMe, and I'll put all of that back in here. So anybody who's coming towards the end, and it'll be in the comments as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Go ahead and log off, everyone. And I don't think, did I show it? I don't think I showed it. Oh, goodness. I'm so out of it. There we go. Right? Yeah. It's a lot. It's covered our face.
It's a lot. Yeah, that's great.
Whatever. So again, we will tune in and see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. And I'll give you a quick jingle afterwards. All right. Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.